Welcome to the Kentoning. Back again with the Ultimate History of Video Games, Volume 2. We're just getting started. Let's say hello to our wonderful cast of characters, even if they are not cast members. Dale. Oh, I guess he went and he was slicing an onion or something.
That is exactly the kind of delay you can expect. To be fair.
All right. Jacob.
Crowds about.
Indeed. And Alexander Smith. They create worlds.
Hello?
All right, we stopped mid-chapter last time, which was bad of us, but, you know, things happen sometimes.
We had to. It was a death march.
I was tired.
Though actually, in all seriousness, this is one of the chapters I think is one of the better chapters in this book. I mean, it's long because he decided, what if I crammed all arcade history into one chapter? But because he got some interviews from some people that like really did understand some of the transitions going on in coin-op in the early 2000s, it's actually got some good info in it.
Yeah, though it's, you know, it's way too oversimplified, and he's only talking to, like, you know, 3 people.
Yeah.
It's like...
Sure. So that's absolutely true. Like, as a definitive artifact of the era, it's not a thing. But as a source to be able to pull some quotes some in one's own research, it's one of the few chapters in this book that I could actually see myself actually citing to.
Even though you're probably gonna, you know, Volume 3 of yours is probably gonna end well before you get to the big downturn in the arcade, as such.
Yeah, probably.
Who knows where that's going to be? Who even knows where Volume 2 is going to be? But we are here with Kent Volume 2 instead. So let us continue. So Jarvis just went and described the world's biggest Pac-Man, and now we will continue from that. Titled The World's Largest Pac-Man, Jarvis's reimagined version of Pac-Man takes place on an 8-foot vertical screen. When the world's largest Pac-Man first came out, it towered over other games. Arcade owners had to place it against a wall because it overshadowed any game placed behind it. Most of the ones that I've seen are kind of freestanding in the middle of a room. Like, maybe I've only seen the Space Invaders one. I guess I've seen the Pac-Man one. Yeah, normally they put it, like, in the center, so there's not really anything behind it.
Right.
Fortunately, Raw Thrills came up with a solution for what to place behind it. Space Invaders Frenzy, the company's second Golden Age classic, reimagined on an 8-foot screen. Space Invaders Frenzy is a redemption game and distributes tickets. Unlike the original Space Invaders, which many players managed to master, Frenzy is too fast and frenetic for hour-long sessions. Space Invaders is the only classic to return in the larger form of the redemption game. Ice Games recently, like, okay, when? Like, this is it's completely
at the time of publication, yes. Or at the time he wrote this chapter.
Exactly, like that's
5 years before.
Yeah. Recently released a 3-player Centipede on a 75-inch screen that distributes tickets as well. Man, Ice is still around. That bubble hockey, they rode that to hell.
Boy, they did.
The world's largest Pac-Man was faithful to its roots. It looked the same and played the same. The Raw Thrills reimagining of Space Invaders couldn't just be bigger. In its original form, Space Invaders featured a relentless, slow-moving enemy. The ponderous attack in the original game was no longer fit for the high-speed, non-stop experience of modern arcades. Very likely trying to highlight the change in pacing, Raw Thrills named its rebooted game Space Invaders Frenzy.
You already said that they called it Space Invaders Frenzy.
Yes.
That two paragraphs ago.
He loves saying, like, the rename. He always likes a story behind the renaming. Like, he does this repeatedly.
Which is fine, but give us the story and the name. Don't give us the name, and then the story, and then the name.
We tried everything in the lab to get the adrenaline maxed out in Space Invaders, but nothing was working. Then we looked at the red blasters on the Jurassic Park game. This is one that needs a citation. You know, I'm assuming it's the Sega one, but there's plenty of Jurassic Park games. Right. And the answer was obvious. Space Invaders with giant red machine guns. After we added the machine gun, Space Invaders got 3 times the play of the world's largest Pac-Man. They even put the game in Taito headquarters in Tokyo. You mean Square Enix headquarters. Back in the era of the original Pac-Man and Space Invaders games, most new arcade games sold for under $3,000. To who? You gotta be clarified with that. Operators could splurge for deluxe setups, and it wouldn't be the operators.
Yeah.
The operators are probably playing more like 3,000 something. Operators could splurge for deluxe setups such as discs of Tron and Star Wars environmental cockpits. Won't explain what that is. But no one envisioned games having 8-foot screens and theater quality surround sound.
I am happy for not another explanatory footnote here. It's okay. I'll let him not explain what that is.
Back in the 1970s and 1980s, the golden age, not capitalized, the conventional wisdom was that games had to pay for themselves 6 times over for an arcade to turn a profit. I would like to know where you got
needed?
that. Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
Like, it might be kind of true because, there's the halving stuff because it would be 50-50
Sure.
for an operator in an arcade, but, yeah, I would like to know. By that metric, a Pac-Man machine that cost $1,800, not what it cost. It was, I think, like $2,400 that's to the distributor, I think. Yeah, I can't remember. Would need to bring in $10,800 to pay for itself and the real estate around it. Back in the days when arcades ran on quarters and the games were the only attraction, nothing else was in there. No, not a single thing. The number of quarters in the cash boxes was the bottom line. Over the years, both arcade games and the people running the business have become far more sophisticated. It's not just, arcade with,
World's largest Pac-Man is not just Pac-Man in space. It is far more sophisticated.
Yes. The latest environmental cabinets aren't meant to gather 6 times their initial cost in quarters. Bandai Namco Amusement's Dark Escape 4D, for example, comes in a cabinet that is roughly the size of a confessional booth. All right, Kent, we know you grew up Catholic. All right. It features air blowers to simulate zombies breathing down players' necks, heavy recoil guns, and a separate 5.1 surround sound system for each of the 2 players entering the cabinet, and sensors that read the players' heart rates. Dark Escape 4D sells for over $30,000. The 1980s metric, it would need to collect $180,000 to turn a profit. At $2 a game, that's 90,000 plays, far more plays than most machine will see in a lifetime. Yet big-ticket games like Dark Escape 4D and Raw Thrill's The Walking Dead play an integral role in the modern marketing mix. Jacob.
Who's this?
Scott Hoosh.
Yeah, I think he's new. I don't
Yes.
think
All
I've
right.
seen him.
Yeah, just double checking. Anyone can sit in front of their computer in their house and play any of these games. They have all the accessories. They have the surround sound. They have the VR headsets now. So we feel that we need to provide an experience. It's hard because they're expensive. They take up a lot of floor space, but we need the surround sound. We need the big screen. We need guns that people can hold because that's part of the experience.
Scott Hewish. Corporate General Managers, Hewish Family Fun Centers.
The store-sized street arcade and neighborhood bar have dwindled down considerably, but family entertainment centers have risen considerably. It's just like tilting the bathtub. One side's got the water, and now the other side has got the water. I would say that 95% of the games being built today are for the FEC business, not for the street. There's hardly anything you can buy for the street today.
There was a time when simply having a lot of games generated enough business to keep arcades afloat. As the market shifted, Chuck E. Cheese stabilized its business model by replacing most of its traditional games with redemption games.
They always had redemption games,
Yes.
though. They had skee-ball from the beginning. I mean, I'm sure they made the mix more towards redemption, but like everybody did that, not just Chuck E. Cheese. Redemption was part of it from the beginning.
Dave & Buster's is much more than a restaurant in an arcade. It is far more sophisticated. Along with games and a reliably good restaurant, Dave & Buster's offers billiards and bar, 4 separate attractions. Wait, 4? What? Games,
The restaurant's arcade, billiards, bar.
It's 4 separate attractions in the same way that Video Olympics has like 80 games. Whatever.
I never remember a bit like the one that we had in Providence. There was a laser tag, so that makes up for it. But I don't remember billiards ever. Never saw billiards in a Dave & Buster's.
I was at a Dave & Buster's in Schaumburg that had like a pool table, like not a pool table.
Today's more successful location-based entertainment establishments look a lot like miniature theme parks. Hewish Family Sun Center locations, aka Bullwinkles, feature bumper boats, go-kart racing, bowling, laser tag, and Euro bungee slingshots. I think those are very...
But it's like those were around in the late 80s and early 90s too. Like, I mean, the place that I didn't play arcade games as much in the 90s, but the place where I played coin-op games most of the time was a place that was batting cages and miniature golf and go-karts and bumper boats and an arcade. Like, he makes it sound like that's a new trend in the 2000s, and it's not.
In the center of everything, Bullwinkle's locations still feature arcades, with a mixture of redemption games and traditional arcade games. In other words, Bullwinkles has something for everybody. Having something for everybody, something to entertain the parents while the kids trade tickets for cheaply made plush animals and candy, seems to be the latest formula for success. Jacob, you can take Howard McAuliffe.
There's been a series of single attraction projects like Discovery Zone where they have an arcade and a kids play area. That collapsed. One attraction doesn't really work.
And Scott Hughes.
In our Tequila location, which is our biggest, we have 16 attractions. Of all the attractions, I would say the arcade floor is the most popular. It's our highest revenue attraction.
The Hewish family isn't the only company building family entertainment centers. FECs are opening across the country. These aren't destination businesses. People don't travel hundreds of miles for bumper cars and batting cages. FECs cater to local markets.
I mean, what exactly is the point he's trying to make with that? People didn't travel hundreds of miles to go to arcades either.
It just happens to have like all the stuff that the go-karts and all that kind of upscale stuff. There's a place like that.
He might be comparing it to like earlier he talked to Howard about the Disney Quest thing, where the locals didn't continue to go back to it.
That's fair.
He was trying to draw in tourists, so I think that's what he's trying to do.
Okay, I'll allow it.
Some are upscale enough to feature roller coasters, not just enormous roller coasters, just not enormous roller coasters of the Superman Space Mountain King Da Ka variety. King Da Ka.
King Da Ka.
What is that?
I don't know. That was a Genghis Khan reference.
I think it's an enormous roller coaster
of
the Space Mountain variety.
And Superman.
Yes.
They often feature miniature golf or water slides, and more often than not, there's an arcade on the property. Family Entertainment Center arcades tend to skew heavily towards redemption games over traditional games, as you said about like 4 times already. Jacob.
Oh, right. Sorry, I was looking up King Da Ka. It's the one that was closed down at Six Flags in New Jersey.
Okay, I didn't think that's very well known, but all right, Kent.
Yeah, I just had to look that up. The percentage of redemption games has been sliding up. It's like 80% now. We still do video games, but it's kind of like we have to have them. The prize redemption games are the real money makers. The home systems and the PC games are so good now that they used to copy us. Now we're copying them. Game industry is starting to copy the app games and PC games. We have a Halo game.
Halo Fire Team Raven, officially licensed by Microsoft to raw thrills/play mechanics, comes in an exceptionally flashy 4-player environmental cabinet with a 120-inch 4K screen and costs $30,000. According to Eugene Jarvis, it looks like a giant flying saucer and maybe the largest arcade game ever made.
In our arcade now. It's not the exact same game as Halo Online, but it's licensed from Halo. It's got a lot of the same look and feeling and some of the same characters, but it's not the exact same game.
And this is Howard.
We learned a lesson from one of our clients, Shakey's Pizza. They're a pizza buffet, but they have a good salad bar. The reason they have it is because they want to avoid what they call the veto move. Is there's a family that wants to go out to eat, but there's one person who's eating healthy. They don't want that person to kill Shakey's as an option. When we designed a whole arcade, we like to have options for different groups. We'll have games geared towards small kids. Almost all of them are low performers, but you still want them to have in the mix. Similarly, you may want to have a world's largest Pac-Man. Pac-Man's been around forever. It's not a great performer, but older clients who are used to Pac-Man will like it.
Space Invaders on an 8-foot screen is fun for younger players and nostalgic for parents and grandparents who may have played the original game back in the golden age. Ice Game's Wheel of Fortune may cost $12,000, but that's a bargain. If stepmoms and girlfriends...
If it stops,
stepmoms and girlfriends from vetoing dinner at Dave and Buster's. I'd love to see your gender politics at play here, Kent. New arcades, big and small.
There's a new breed of cat in the amusement business called the bar arcade that not only highlight videos, but the classics, the dedicated uprights, as we call them in the trade.
Oh, this is Doc Mac. I have met him, so let me see. Get a. When we initially opened, I found 114 machines on Craigslist for about $5,000. It was like $40 per machine, and that was an amazing assortment of games. This was 2009, 2010, right around there. Back then, the only time you heard about an arcade was when it was closing. Kleenex, Band-Aid, Jell-O, and Coke are all trademark names of specific products that have become so ubiquitous they're in danger of losing their trademarks. No, I mean, not if you know how to do it. But what?
Well, genericization is where he's getting at.
I know, but like, I know where he's going, but like. This may not be the case in other countries, but in the United States, people are more likely to ask for Kleenex and a facial tissue when they need to wipe their noses. No, I hear tissue. I only learned about this Kleenex fact like years and years later. People don't generically call it Kleenex where I'm from anyway.
Sorry, bud. They do in Canada, I'm afraid.
Yeah, that's been my experience as well.
Kleenex refers to a specific band of facial tissue created by the Kimberly-Clark Corporation. The Kimberly-Clark employs lawyers specifically to prevent the name from being genericized, meaning it slips into the public domain. Not exactly. It's just that you can't enforce it. If the name Kleenex were to become genericized, Procter & Gamble, makers of Puffs and Scotties, could describe their facial tissue as Kleenex. Similarly, Johnson & Johnson does not allow competing bandage makers to refer to their products as Band-Aids, and Kraft Foods protects their trademark name Jell-O. The Coca-Cola Company is in a particularly interesting quandary, as many people use the word Coke as an umbrella term for carbonated drinks. Why is this particularly interesting? It's exactly the same as the other two.
Is. Exactly. It is not an any more interesting quandary. And that's actually dying out. That's a Southern thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a very particular Southern thing, because like I'm in the South and people don't really call it Coke in the part of the South where I'm at.
Well, and it's a Southern thing that's dying. Like it was a much more prominent Southern thing like 40 or 50 years ago. Like,
okay, but riddle me this. So if I went to the restaurant and they're like, "What do you want to drink?" I'd be like, "Orange Coke."
Yeah. So it's so I think it's more like in conversation between people, like you go over to somebody's house, they'll be like, "You want a Coke?" And they don't necessarily mean Coca-Cola. They mean whatever carbonated beverage is on hand. Yeah. And I think that's I have occasionally heard that in Atlanta, which of course is the home of the Coca-Cola company. But only from older people. And I've read other places that that's dying out.
A new word that's similarly based on trademark name has slipped into the vocabulary of location-based entertainment businesses. Barcade. Oh, Kent, you didn't put the trademark symbol on it. Come on, Kent. Do you want to get sued by whoever the hell owns it? Because does he? Yeah. Arcades may not be as popular as they once were, but nostalgia for the halcyon days of the 1980s arcades is on the rise. So in 2004... four men opened a bar arcade in Brooklyn that featured dozens of 1980s and 1990s arcade games along with a selection of trendy craft beers. They named their establishment Barcade. The owners of Barcade have registered their name as a trademark in 2007. When other people open similar businesses, they can say they have opened a bar/arcade, but calling the business arcade will likely result in a lawsuit. I mean, not a lawsuit. You know, that's the final act of the legal tussles. But the idea was a hit. Over the last decade, they've opened eight more locations. Barcades typically have 60-plus games, including a smattering of pinball machines. Those are games. You know, games does not just refer to video games, Mr. Kent. One cool thing, the Logan Arcade over here, which is a barcade. They actually had an old Chicago coin basketball game there at one point. I don't know where it went. I can ask him sometime, but I remember when going in there and playing it, it was like, oh, finally get to see. No, it was a bowling game, but you know, same idea.
Yeah.
They're city bars, bigger than local neighborhood bars, but not nearly as big as the Dave & Buster's. They serve burger and sandwiches and salads, but they're most known for beverages and games. It seemed like in the 2000s, everything was getting bigger and the FCC ruled supreme. Just when it seemed like the last storefront old school arcade had closed, the Barcade trademark was born. It was Back to the Future, only this time with $8 craft beers. Now I'm trying to remember what did Eugene drink a craft beer when we were together? I can't remember, but according to Howard McAuliffe, that one just messes with my brain every single time.
No worries.
Whose Pinnacle Entertainment Group has consulted on grand-scale projects like Disney Quest, as well as game rooms at local pizza parlors. Barcade's focus on classic games allows more games per foot.
We used to use 30 square feet per game as the rule of thumb. Now we're up to 65.
Environmental cabinets and VR experiences require twice as much floor space as their Golden Age antecedents. Barcades can fit 60 vintage games into a relatively tight floor space. And as always, you gotta, like, you know, squeeze through the tiny passages they allow you.
Yes.
The
twisty little passages all alike.
The Barcade chain isn't the only organization serving arcade games, nostalgia, and beer. I hope not. Founded in 1999, Ground Control may have been the country's first bar/classic arcade. Oh boy, Kent, you need to research this. Come on. Unlike Barcade, Ground Control separates its games and alcohol so that it can accommodate players of all ages during daylight hours, which is a legitimate problem with the arcade model, and that's something at Chicago Game Space we get a lot. When we get our parties, you know, of kids and whatnot, the parents will say, yeah, I want it to a place where they can play games, but, you know, all the places are, like, you know, over 18. So, yeah, that is a good way to do the model. It's just you need more floor space for something like that. Located in Portland, Oregon's Chinatown district, Ground Control was originally shoehorned into tight confines with a densely packed arcade on its ground floor and a bar in the overhead loft. After its 2011 expansion, Ground Control more than doubled in size, adding a second bar, a more spacious arcade, and cleverly remodeled bathrooms. The men's bathrooms feature a Pac-Man-inspired maze on its tile floor. The women's bathroom features a Miss Pac-Man-inspired maze. Oh, yes, so very clever.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think
The game-
I've actually been to Ground Control. I believe. Trying to see. I think this is the one I went to. I went to a bar arcade when I was in Portland on business once. I'm not sure it was this one, but I think it might have been.
The games can make you money, but most of the money is from the food and the beverage. The games are basically a hook to get people to come in the door and stay longer. The first one I was aware of was in Portland. They play on nostalgia. The old games are relatively inexpensive compared to the new games. If you can find them, they're a lot harder to maintain.
Hell yes,
Yeah.
they are.
So Howard McAuliffe's like, yeah, the first one I ever saw was in Portland, and Kent just took that and said, the very first bar arcade was in Portland. That seems to be the provenance of his claim that it was the very first one.
We've encountered this in Volume 1 before, you know. Yes. People think that Kent is a historian in the, the broader sense. Just look at his methods. That's all I'd say. Bar arcades aren't the only nostalgia-based phenomenon resurrecting the golden age. A second trend is taking business in the opposite direction: retro arcades. Only a few of the great arcades have survived intact, most notably Fun Spot in Laconia, New Hampshire. I want to go there, like, really bad.
Yeah.
It's like
I do too, actually.
I'm gonna be back east if I have nothing else going on. It's actually not that far a drive to get to Fun Spot, so I am going to look at that. With more than 500 working machines, Fun Spot was recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records as the largest arcade in the world in 2008. Oh, Doc Mack is seething right now. he needs to beat it.
Well, that was 2008, so...
In recent years, however, a new breed of retro arcades has begun opening around the country. I'm not sure how many, but with their dim lighting and focus on games rather than redemption, the Neon Retro Arcades in Pasadena and Northridge, California, offer a more authentically 1980s experience than most arcades. Neon Retro is hardly alone in California, the birthplace of coin-op video games. All right. The San Francisco area is home to several shrines into the history of arcades, such as the Musée Mécanique and Emporium SF.
I really wanted to go to the Musée Mécanique when I was in San Francisco on business, but there wasn't enough time.
Alas. There's the Arcadia Retrocade in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Or Fayetteville? I don't know.
Fayetteville, yeah.
Fayetteville, yeah.
And the Retro Arcade in Warrington, England, about halfway between Manchester and Liverpool. Thanks for the directions, Kent. This is what we needed. Looking across the United States, it seems like every state has at least one retro arcade. Even Montana. Are you sure about that? Though not all of them keep their games in good running order. The reigning heavyweight of all retro arcades, however, is Galloping Ghost, located just outside of Chicago in Brookfield and founded in 2010. It's not just outside of Chicago. It's a little ways. I pass by there fairly often. With only 15,000 square feet of floor space, Galloping Ghost isn't an especially large arcade, but it's tightly packed with games. Yes, there's even just a section where there's just a bunch of games that don't work, and he just shoves them into the corner. It's a lot of games, guys. It's a lot. 65 square inches per game, be damned. According to Doc Mack, the arcade's founder, Galloping Ghost Arcade currently has 751 working arcade machines. When Mack says he has 751 games, he means 751 unique games. He isn't counting duplicates. Also, with that number was of January 2020, Mack is constantly on the lookout for new games to add to the collection. Including a couple...
First 2008, then January 2020. That's pretty hopeful.
Including a couple of one-of-a-kind games. We have developer days where we'll just pick a game and we'll get everybody that worked and come out and talk about it and sign autographs. We did it for Narc, which was the first arcade game I ever bought. We had Eugene Jarvis, George Petro, Larry DeMar, Warren Davis, Mark Lafredo. The legends of the industry were here. The day before the event, George Petro calls and asks if I have a spare Narc board. I was like, yeah. I drove it out to him. Didn't think anything of it. And when I went back to get ready for the event, at the start of the event, he comes in like, I know that Narc is one of your favorite games. There was a level we put out on test for one day, and it caused all these problems, and the game was so close to being done, we just scrapped it. We pulled the level out and never put it in the game. I finished coding it last night and fixed the problem. I burned you new ROMs. Here's your Narc board back, with this one-of-a-kind version of what the complete game was supposed to be. Galloping Ghost Productions put out a game last year called The Spectre Files Deathstalker, which was a game by Brian Collin, who did Rampage, Xenophobe, Arch Rivals. It started back in 1984. It was supposed to be a Laserdisc game, and another game had come out on CED, Capacitive Electronic Disc, an early Laserdisc technology created by RCA. It's not a Laserdisc. Well, I mean, I guess in the sense that it was read by a laser, but Laserdisc means kind of something specific.
We were saying about trademarks?
NFL football, and the disc player was failing so badly that they, Bally Midway, canceled any and all Laserdisc games. Brian Collin told me about it. It was so fascinating to me. I'm like, how far along was it? He said, we got through filming and nobody was programming anything. There was no artwork, nothing. It was just raw footage that was supposed to be a full motion video scene. That's all we did. I haven't seen the footage in 2 decades. We found it. We worked with them. We finished the whole game, coded it and everything. We made an arcade cabinet for it. We now sell it to other arcades in this lost game from 1984 that wasn't ever completed. It's a smart thing that they canceled it back in 1984 because the game would have never earned money. But now in this environment where it's free play, it doesn't matter how long someone's on a game. It frees up. I mean, there's a lot of games that don't really get played at Galloping Ghost, but doesn't matter because you pay at the door. Both the updated Narc and the Spectre Files are available for play on the floor of the Galloping Ghost. I mean, that was implied by the fact that you just highlighted this, but whatever. Before Microsoft, Nintendo, Sony, and Sega made video games a household item, even before Nolan Bushnell founded Atari, Chicago was the coin-up capital of the United States. Williams Manufacturing, which was only called way in the beginning, Bally Manufacturing, and Midway Manufacturing started in Chicago long before they merged under the WMS Industries label. No. No. This is also something on the Wikipedia that's like, Midway needs to be like 3 different entries.
Well, and also, I mean, Bally was not merged into WMS.
Well, that's what
WMS bought their video game and pinball stuff, but not the company.
And I'm pretty sure that they didn't buy Midway. They just bought assets of Midway. I'm fairly certain they did not buy the company Midway.
As you know, I was recently in the newspapers trying to figure out all of those relationships. The Nykesters had a lot of companies.
Yes.
It's very bad. We need corporate records from the Illinois Secretary of State.
I have called them. I have literally called them. They sent me through a runaround of calling other people. They said they don't have them. Companies in good standing. I know that's wrong, but nobody is willing to check for me. So, there's my...
Well, regardless, for a book that devotes exactly 2 paragraphs to this part of the history.
So... Ethan, what you got to do is you have to figure out how to get a union interested in getting this information.
The unions will get it.
In Illinois, you better believe it.
It's no mystery where Chicago Coin was located, but other pinball makers like Stern and Gottlieb, I mean, Stern was very minor for just a little while, were located in the Windy City as well. Before settling down in San Jose, Capcom had offices in Chicago, so did jukebox companies such as Seaburg and Rockola. Several of the great designers are still there, still living in or near Chicago. I mean, yeah, several, not most. That's the takeaway from being here. When Mac holds his Legends celebration days, those designers are often in attendance. Not only have Mortal Kombat co-creators Ed Boon and John Tobias attended events at the arcade, so have the actors who played the combatants. Yes, those guys. Yeah. I remember when we were doing the stuff for Insert Coin, we deliberately did not invite Daniel Pacino for reasons. Mac and company broke into the arcade at the right time. In 2008, as he started drawing up his plans, interest in 1980s arcades had mostly waned. Mac brags that he purchased his first 114 games for less than $5,000. I mean, he already said, like, at the beginning of this, he said, like, it was less than 20 for each, but yeah. When he was assembling his Videotopia traveling exhibit, Keith Feinstein sometimes purchased games by the barn load, meaning arcade games sent off to private farms for storage. Since that time, renewed interest in arcade games has driven up prices considerably. One company, Arcade 1-Up, manufactures 4-foot miniature replicas of legally licensed... Okay, what's this? The legal license is important, and Arcade 1-Up is the only company creating a licensed version of classic arcade games for home use. Several companies are offering MAME, multiple arcade machine emulator, or other emulator-based machines with unlicensed games.
Okay.
I have to make the distinction because those are sold at Walmart.
Okay, boomer.
Yeah, I mean, if you really wanted to talk about the revival and interest in arcades, you gotta start with the emulation, because most people one originally played it. And you know, I've talked about this before, just kids will come in to GameSpace and they'll be like, I know these games. I'm like, how do you know these games? It's not, you know, even them getting a plug-in play or something like that. You know, they see videos of it mainly, but like, you can access these things via emulation.
Yeah.
Arcade machines such as Star Wars, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Space Invaders, Mortal Kombat, and Street Fighter 2. We've got a Street Fighter 2 one in our in-game space. In the age of the man cave, 1980s arcade machines have become popular collector's items.
They're getting to be fewer and fewer out there, because at one time, people within the industry were actually throwing them away as play fell off. Now they wish they didn't, because those machines are becoming rather rare.
With a $15 admission fee and his game set on free play. I'm pretty sure it's got up by now.
Yeah, but it was probably back then.
Mac couldn't afford to pay downtown real estate fees or mall prices, but that worked out in his favor. His arcade is on Ogden Avenue, just a few blocks from a train station. But I'll just say, walking from the train station to Galloping Ghost in the summer is bad, because Ogden Avenue has nowhere you can stay for shade, and it's a strode, so like getting across it is kind of perilous. It's not easy to get over there. It's meant for cars. In the town that wants to find the coin-operated amusement industry, well, not Brookfield, plenty of players will happily take a train out to Brookfield to visit his game smorgasbord. Unlike pinball machines and other electromechanical games, video games are fairly durable. Granted, over-enthusiastic players often broke the controls on Sega's Heavyweight Champ, and he means the 87 one, not the 76 one.
Of course.
And light guns need frequent recalibration, but with minimal maintenance, original Pac-Man machines can live on for decades.
Their CRTs can't.
Replacement CRT monitors are harder to find, and the vector displays using games like Tempest and Star Wars are no longer available, but most of the needed repairs are fairly rudimentary. Several of the vector games in Galloping Ghost do not have the original monitors. Like, I believe his Space Fury doesn't, which was disappointing to me, because, you know, it's a Gremlin game, so I wanted to see it in its full glory, but alas. In his quest to keep classic arcades alive, Doc Mack even teaches rival arcade owners how to repair and maintain their games. Not that he views other arcade owners as rivals. Then why did you? but yeah, Kent.
His thought versus Kent's thought.
It's a whimsical turn of phrase. Capturing the Dickensian aspect.
Priced at $30,000, The latest games
Man,
won't sell
he
in the
is obsessed with the number 30,000. That is.
The latest games won't sell in the same quantity as the Pac-Man machines once sold, but more arcades are opening than closing these days. The golden age of 80s isn't coming back, but a renaissance may be in the offing.
I mean, let's do our handy dandy inflation calculator, because like what would an $1,800 Pac-Man machine go for today?
It's
You know,
four. Well, are you pulling it up, or do I need to pull it up?
I am
Okay.
pulling it up.
All right.
1,800 in January 1980. Good enough. Calculate. Yeah, so that's 7,700. So yeah, games have gone up way more than just inflation, which makes sense because they're so much bigger and hit more technology.
Yeah. But yeah, $30,000.
$30,000.
And it's not like every, like there's a whole bunch of, big buck hunters and other little things that you can get that probably don't cost that much.
Golden Tee Golf.
But I have the feeling he hasn't even set foot in one of these arcades, like from the way he describes them. So that's kind of the. All right, we're on to chapter 9. We got out of that chapter somehow, some way. Slightly less horrific than I imagined.
We were talking, and we got on the subject of the PlayStation Portable. JR said, it's going to be a flop. And I said, no, it's going to be on the same trajectory as PlayStation 2.
And so, we have the Nintendo DS. It is different. Satoru Iwata. The Influencer. In 2001, Newsweek reporter Nagai Kroll attempted the impossible. He tried to arrange a roundtable discussion with the 5 biggest video game designers in Japan. This was during the opening year of the PlayStation 2 era, when Sony couldn't build consoles fast enough to keep up with demand. Sega's Dreamcast was alive, but dying. Nintendo hadn't yet launched GameCube, and nobody knew if Microsoft could have the fortitude to endure the console wars. Inviting the
Nobody
biggest...
still knows.
Recent events. Inviting the biggest names in computer gaming universe would have been an easier task. Many of the icons in PC gaming, such as Sid Meier, Will Wright, Sid Meier's Civilization, Will Write The Sims, Peter Molyneux, Populous. Populous was years
One
ago.
of these things. It's not like
John
the
Carmack, Doom, maintained collegial relationships and occasionally appeared on the same panels at the Game Developers Conference and E3, never all at once, but in different combinations.
But we do have to remember that Peter Molyneux wrote the foreword to the Ultimate History Video Games Volume 1, so
True, yes.
he's a friend.
Bringing the titans of console gaming out together, on the other hand, would require a Herculean effort, mostly because the companies they worked for didn't necessarily play together well. Kroll's ideal roundtable would include Nintendo's Shigeru Miyamoto, Mario, Zelda, Donkey Kong, Sega arcade legend Yu Suzuki, Outrun Space Harrier Shenmue, Squaresoft RPG master Hironobu Sakaguchi, the Final Fantasy series, Konami's pioneering Hideo Kojima, the Metal Gear franchise, and a relatively new phenomenon on the scene, Capcom's Shinji Mikami, Resident Evil Dino Crisis. This was the A-Team, the absolute pinnacle. Arranging an interview with any one of them was an accomplishment. Persuading all of them to sit at the same table would be unprecedented.
I'm sure some of them would probably prefer to have been called the AAA team.
This is you.
What I didn't realize until I started putting together was the dance of, think about it, Newsweek's a Western outlet. We're trying to put together this roundtable of Japanese developers. I have no idea what the relationships among any of them are.
The first hurdle was geographical. Sega and Konami were located in Tokyo, so was Squaresoft, but Hironobu Sakaguchi worked out of a satellite studio located in downtown Honolulu.
Konami has an office in Tokyo, and I think the Tokyo office is where Kojima worked, but Konami is an Osaka company.
Yes. Nintendo was located in Kyoto, and Capcom was in the nearby city of Osaka, which meaning Miyamoto and Mikami would likely have to take a 2-hour Shinkansen trade ride to attend the roundtable. Then there was politics. With Dreamcast still alive and GameCube on the way, Miyamoto and Suzuki worked for rival hardware manufacturers. In the United States, the wars Nintendo, Sony, and Sega waged with one another were amicable. But that wasn't necessarily the case in Japan. What? No, it's exactly the opposite. What are you talking about?
I don't believe Hiroshi Yamauchi ever sent Hayao Nakayama a poem that ended in "You had a bad day, boo hoo hoo."
As chairman of Nintendo, the always combative Hiroshi Yamauchi harbored a festering grudge against Squaresoft. In his view, the leaders of Square had burned all bridges by joining Sony and then persuading other companies to follow suit. Had some other journalists attempted to arrange this particular roundtable, the answer would have been an immediate no! But Nagai Kroll was different. For openers, he wrote for Newsweek. For starters? Like, okay.
For openers.
An American magazine with a highly respected international edition. The Newsweek name carried a certain gravitas. And then there was Kroll himself, witty, smart, and outspoken. He was universally liked and respected in all corners of the U.S. video game industry. I've never heard of this guy before I read this book. I'm sure I read an article or something he did, but I've literally never heard of this guy.
I had heard of him, and he went on to do, like, he wrote Black Panther for a while or something. Like, he became a very big, like, somewhat of a big personality. But I don't know that his game coverage was, like, exceptional. But I mean, I'm sure it was fine. I'm just saying, you know. But no,
He's no
I
Jason
knew
Schreier.
Yeah, that's true. He is no Jason Schreier.
Witty, smart, and outspoken, he was universally liked and respected by all corners of the U.S. game industry. Asked once why her company placed so much weight on Kroll's opinions, Nintendo of America Vice President of Corporate Affairs Perrin Kaplan answered, "Alex, you can take that."
If you get a guy on your side, he brings a lot of other reporters along with him. So what Kent is actually saying is all the journalists look up to him.
Yeah. Kroll was indeed persuasive, a natural-born evangelist. He persuaded Newsweek, a stodgy mainstream news outlet, to cover video games on a regular basis, and he somehow managed to persuade Nintendo, Sega, Squaresoft, Konami, and Capcom to participate in his round table.
Squaresoft's one word, right?
It depends. I think it depends on what era you're talking about.
Fair enough.
Yeah, do we have a year on this? Nobody wanted to be the first to say yes, so I'm juggling, and then I got that group of people. They were all on board. I set a 2-week window to make it happen, and I got my editor to sign off on my being in Japan. Then it fell apart. If you recall, Sakaguchi was in Hawaii directing the Final Fantasy movie. He was going to be in Japan the second week, and then he switched his schedule and had to pull out, and then everyone else pulled out except for Mikami. Can you imagine? That would have been legendary. If I know more, I wouldn't even try. And I came across Sakaguchi keeping to his schedule away from being able to pull off that round table.
Okay. You would have got like a scoop, but would anything interesting have happened? I don't think so.
Probably not.
Kroll still moderated a roundtable, but his invitees were more notable as innovators and artists than as hitmakers. Reclusive but agreeable by nature, Resident Evil creator Shinji Mikami was the only member of the original panel to participate. The other participants were Tomonobu Itagaki, rest in peace, Dead or Alive, Ninja Gaiden, and Tetsuya Mizuguchi, Space Channel 5, Rez.
I would dispute the idea that Itagaki was not a hitmaker.
Yes.
I mean, he's not as famous as Miyamoto or Suzuki, but, you know.
Yeah. He kept Tecmo going for a while. Like, he was...
He brought down the head of the company.
Yes.
Like, when he was fired, the head of the company had to leave.
The round table went well, but as Kroll wistfully reminisced nearly 2 decades later,
The original panel would have been legendary, but this was not the universe in which it happened. I console myself with that.
His legendary roundtable may have gone soundways, but Kroll still walked freely among the movers and shakers of the industry. He had an uncanny ability to pick the winners and losers before the showdowns ever began, and the CEOs of the biggest companies placed a lot of weight on his opinions. Well, I mean, if he could do that, then he probably would be very rich in stock.
And also, whether that's true or not, if that's the argument you're trying to make, why did you open this chapter with a quote where he said that the PSP was going to be as big as the PS2?
Good call right there. One in the wild. Ever since Nintendo first released Game Boy in 1989, there had been an industry-wide quest to find something handhelds could do above and beyond playing games. There had been a Game Boy cartridges with dictionaries, foreign language dictionaries, the King James Bible, and more. In 1997, Tiger Electronics, a company that mostly traded in single-screen LCD games not that far evolved from Nintendo's old Game & Watches, released a new handheld system called Gamecom. No, it's not Game.com. That absolutely took the technology beyond playing games. Keeping up with the Palm Pilot-obsessed world of the late 1990s. They weren't that obsessed.
I do want to say, and I just confirmed it, it totally is Game.com. No, it is. Game.com is the name of it.
I think that there was a lot of debates on this in the magazines and stuff. I've seen some discussion about this.
Yeah, it's got this stylized planet in between the game and the com, but it's how it's reported everywhere. So
because people understand the between the lines.
Yeah, regardless of original intent, it is Game.com now.
Game.com did a lot more than play games on tiny cartridges. It also featured a personal data assistant PDA. It could be attached to a proprietary modem and used to send email or browse text sites on the internet. Like the Palm Pilots and the Apple Newton before it, yes. Game.com featured a touchscreen and a stylus.
Illustrious company, the Apple Newton.
The biggest failing with Game.com was the games. Screenshots.
That's a problem when you're called Game.com.
Screenshots of Game.com games looked great, but many Game.com games had horrible frame rates. The Game.com version of Duke Nukem played like a slideshow. Even the stripped-down versions of 1980s arcade games and Williams arcade classics had frame rate problems. Competing against the 8-year-old Game Boy with his brilliantly optimized processor, and
the Z80 processor, it's fine.
And its catalog of more than 700 games. Game.com never stood a chance. Then in 1998, Nintendo released Game Boy Color to knock out WonderSwan, relegating Game.com to its smaller sequel, Game.com Pocket Pro, to discount bins and history books. Well, Tiger will return in the Gizmondo story.
Oh, my lord.
Nintendo released Game Boy Advance in 2001 to international applause. By the end of 2002, 11.7 million GBAs have been sold in the United States, 5.6 million in Europe, and 7.6 million in Japan. Loves the sales figures. Less than 2 years had passed since the handheld's release, and Nintendo had already sold nearly 25 million units. The software sales are strong, too. The U.S. hardware-to-software tie ratio was already over 3.5 games per console. Game Boy Advance continued conquering the market in its second year. Nintendo released Pokemon Ruby and Pokemon Sapphire in Japan in November 2002, selling approximately 1.4 million copies of each game. Having only been on the market for a month, Ruby and Sapphire placed second and third on the Japan Top 10 for 2002. The only game that outsold them was Super Smash Bros. Melee for GameCube. Like previous Game Boys released in the United States, that is, Game Boy Light, which was only released in Japan, had a backlit screen. Okay.
Oh.
The original Game Boy Advance
Couldn't you have put that footnote after the parenthetical there, because he hasn't talked about the screen yet at the time the footnote has been inserted.
That is correct. The original Game Boy Advance had a dim screen, which was both a bane and a benefit. It meant players needed some source of direct light to see what was happening on the screen, but it also enabled GBA to last more than 15 hours on a single set of AA batteries. The battery life of the original Game Boy was rated for up to 30 hours.
And I believe that has been verified as well.
Welcome, Jumpman.
Good evening.
In 2003, however, Nintendo unveiled Game Boy Advance SP, a new model with an edge-lit screen and a rechargeable battery. Problem solved. I
have had both versions.
I never had one back in the day, but I do have one now, an SP. Not that I've, done anything with it recently, but...
So I had the opposite. I never had an original Game Boy Advance, but I did buy an SP when it came out.
I remember having to have like one of the accessories where you had the light over top, and it was a pain. So when the SP came out, it was like,
it worked enough for me. I was outside enough. Nintendo sold another 11 million GBAs, SP and original combined, worldwide in 2003, and US software sales jumped 40%. SP made Game Boy Advance more portable, but not more communicative. Should Pokemon trainers want to battle or trade Pocket Monsters, they still needed link cables. In 2004, Nintendo released Pokemon Fire Red and Pokemon Leaf Green, along with a wireless adapter that had a range of approximately 3 meters. Are we going to get no mention of the GameCube and GBA weird cross thing that they did? I mean, that stuff was cool as hell, I have to say, but like...
Well, for those that had a GameCube.
Yes, including me. I had...
Yeah, I used my SP with my GameCube a couple of times. Zelda 4 Swords, I think, supported it.
Yes. Well, that it was necessary to play it, I believe.
Yeah.
Or no, or was that the other one? There was...
Yeah, it wasn't necessary, but it was, like, optimized that was the way to play, but you could also play without it.
Yeah, they, it was basically the Wii U before the Wii U as well. Wireless Pokemoning may have been a giant leap by Game Boy standards, but 2004 was also the year that Halo 2 turned Microsoft's Xbox into a worldwide arcade. Slowly but steadily, massively multiplayer games, online games, and connectivity had evolved from a niche market to a worldwide obsession. In Korea, an MMORPG called Lineage had more than 3 million active subscribers.
That's all we're going to hear about the
Korean
MMO revolution that changed Western games.
While nothing even came close in the United States, Sony Online Entertainment's MMORPG EverQuest had 500,000 active subscriptions. Jumpman.
In 2003, according to the Online Publishers Association, global internet users broke down as follows: Asia 230 million, North America 215 million, and Europe 203 million. The Asian leaders were Korea and China, whose high broadband penetration rates, 73% in Korea, and thousands of internet cafes offered high-quality interactive content. Most traditional game publishers have avoided these markets because of piracy problems with packaged goods, although piracy and hacking are also a threat to the growth rate of online gaming, albeit less impactful.
Okay.
Yeah,
What?
So it's just a link to the source, which is John Taylor, Arcadia Investment Corp, 2003-2004 Home Interactive Entertainment Market Update.
Okay. Yeah, like he's noting this interactivity thing, but it's like you had to have a modem inside your device, and it's very unlikely that you're going to get that on handhelds very quickly. And it's not like people were sitting around playing super long sessions on your handheld that you need to get online for. But anyways, we'll continue with where he's going. In November 2004, Blizzard Entertainment published World of Warcraft. WoW. Released the same month as Halo 2, WoW went on to become the best-selling PC game of 2005 and 2006 with 12 million simultaneous subscribers. That is not correct for this time period. 12 million is when it hit its peak in Wrath of the Lich King.
Yeah.
I remember when it happened. It was a big thing on Blizzard's site.
I was there, Gandalf.
By 2006, WoW would reportedly rake in an unheard of 1.1 billion in annual sales and monthly subscription fees. All right, Alex.
Blizzard Entertainment today confirmed that World of Warcraft has broken day one sales records in North America, making it the most successful PC game launch ever. World of Warcraft, the company's subscription-based, massively multiplayer online role-playing game, MMORPG, sold through to over 240,000 customers at retail in North America on Tuesday, November 23rd, selling more in its first 24 hours than any other PC game in history.
The world was going online, but Nintendo wasn't. Yeah, Sony was totally on the online bandwagon, and Nintendo was the only people who were behind.
The world does what Nintendo don't.
On November 4th, 2002, a new incredible threat emerged to challenge Nintendo's lock on portable games. Based on the success of its 2100 series phones, Nokia had recently become the world's leading cell phone manufacturer. During an era of convergence, Nokia had proven itself a leader. Not only was the Finnish telecom giant creeping up on its billionth cell phone sold, but it manufactured phones with cameras and video cameras. Nokia also owned what was arguably the most played game in the world of its day, Snake, a game that came preloaded on Nokia phones. Probably
Tetris was played.
Yeah.
Most installed for a thing.
Well, I mean, if it comes pre-installed, it's cheating. So
It is.
I doubt, it was, maybe some people loaded it up every now and then, but I don't think people were playing it compulsively, because there's just not much to it.
Yeah.
And Nokia planned to break into the games market with the cellular phone/handheld game system named N-Gage.
And it was a complete laughing stock.
Jumpman, take John Romero.
Okay. The N-Gage was pre-iPhone, which meant that everyone was trying everything they could to get decent games on handheld phones. They didn't even call them devices back then. It was either a Nintendo Game Boy or it was a phone.
He's become a New Yorker, but...
Hey, paisanos, you want to play Doom? Processors were getting faster. With N-Gage, they were using the ARM processor, the ARM 920T chips, that were at 100 megahertz, which wasn't that bad for a mobile phone that doesn't have a high-resolution screen. I viewed it as an alternative to the Game Boy, I thought. Let's see where this can go because it's online. It's a phone, so maybe we can do some multiplayer stuff that's cool. It had Bluetooth, and it was fast enough that you could do some 3D graphics.
Love to hear it. John would be so proud of you.
And he is no longer wishing Sandy Peterson well.
This is I believe that still capitalizing the L in Let's is also an editing faux pas, even if you have this in a parenthetical. But anyways. For its part, Nokia maintained a staunchly corporate face. Instead of discussing games, Nokia executives talked about market shares not unlike a current console company. In press releases, Nokia executives described N-Gage as the communication device that played games and forecasted sales of several million units by the end of 2004. Jacob.
Games are an exciting way to communicate and connect with a larger community of like-minded people. Rich mobile games combined with connected near-distance multiplayer gaming over Bluetooth and wide-area gaming using cellular networks opens the door for totally new gaming concepts. Mobility will add a whole new dimension to innovative and creative game concepts and will provide opportunities for the games and telecom industry alike.
Ansi Van Yoki? I don't know. I know nothing about Finnish.
Van Yoki? I don't know.
Van Yoki, probably, but I mean, I'm no expert on Finnish either.
As Nokia released more information, N-Gage sounded unstoppable. It would be built around a 32-bit processor. Game Boy Advance had a 32-bit processor. It featured both Bluetooth and internet options for multiplayer gaming. Yeah, like many people had access to be able to do that. Publishers like Activision, Electronic Arts, Sega, and THQ had signed on to make games for it. Alex.
On paper, the Nokia N-Gage sounds like a wonderful idea. The combination of a mobile gaming device, cell phone, MP3 player, and FM radio should be a handy gadget that caters to pretty much everybody.
In February 2003, Nokia flew journalists from all over the world to London for an international unveiling. I can describe to you exactly how the hot dogs tasted. The reporters were transported to the London Eye, the tallest Ferris wheel in the world at the time, broken into small groups and boarded onto observation decks. They would have the chance to sample the new cell phone handheld game system as the Eye took them on a 25-minute trip above the Thames. Most reporters didn't need an entire ride to know they were looking at a disaster in the making. Most notably, N-Gage was shaped like a taco. It wasn't all that different from the shape of original Game Boy Advance, but GBA didn't moonlight as a telephone. N-Gage's mic and speaker were along the bottom edge, the hinge of the taco. The taco hinge, the very well-known. Forcing callers to hold the phone perpendicular to their heads when they used it.
When I saw it, I wasn't a big fan of the form factor, because it was weird to try and talk on it. It was unbelievable. It was like it was standing out from your face. The 4 touchscreens obliterated everything. It probably was as good as you could get for a phone and a game player in one device.
The screen had a reasonably good resolution, but at 2.1 inches, it was too small for gaming. The screen's vertical orientation wasn't suited for gaming either. With the exception of a few top-down scrolling arcade shooters, or STGs if you're a weeb, video games played on horizontal screens.
Wait.
X erasure, and I will not stand for it.
Yeah, I was also about to say, with the exception of a few top-scrolling arcade shooters, and almost every arcade game made in the early 80s.
And Victrix.
Yeah. Yes, that's your next episode, right?
That's right. It's already recorded. This is Vectrex Erasure.
N-Gage had a thumb pad on its left side and 15 buttons on its right side. The traditional 12-button phone pad plus a 2-button volume control and a button for ending calls. Hardly the minimalist design of a traditional handheld game controller. Few reporters cited N-Gage's biggest shortcoming during the London Eye event because they traded phones to change games. The device's game slot was located under its battery. Yeah, I remember when I first learned this. I'm like,
Yeah,
what the fuck? Actually,
that is something else.
Changing games required removing the battery entirely. Jumpman.
The N-Gage's biggest problem is an astonishing design flaw that all but eliminates the machine's functionality as a mobile device. Better put, you can play games on the go, but should you decide you want to play another game once you're out, good luck. To play a game, insert a new memory card with your MP3s, you'll need to 1. Turn the N-Gage off, 2. Remove the back cover, 3. Remove the battery, 4. Insert the cartridge, 5. Replace the battery, 6. Replace the back cover, 7. Power on the N-Gage, 8. Wait just shy of 30 seconds for the machine to power up, and 9. Load your game.
10. Load your gun.
All totaled, it's about a 90-second process. Worse, it's practically impossible to do if you're on some form of public transportation. And because the games are on MMC cards, wafer thin and about an inch long, if you drop one in a crowded environment, recovering it could be tricky. At $30 a game, that's a risky proposition.
Of course, nowadays, we don't even need physical games. So, they were forward thinking here.
You don't need physical SIM cards anymore.
Nokia followed up the London Eye fiasco with a disastrous E3 pre-show press conference that highlighted the culture divide between conglomerate culture and the gaming world. Yeah, because Microsoft and Sony are not conglomerates. The show began with trendy-looking skater kids and hipsters sort of bebopping as they played games on N-Gages. Nokia executives, apparently all tall and stern-looking, I mean Finnish, stepped onto the stage and towering over the N-Gage playing hipsters and looking simultaneously menacing and incredibly uncomfortable. The climax came when Nokia executive vice president for mobile phones Anssi Vanjoki stepped on stage amid a flock of hipsters. When the rest of her horde fled the scene, a young blonde woman remained as Vanjoki discussed N-Gage's Bluetooth technology, its competence as a phone, and its ability to play games. Jacob.
How much would you expect to pay for this?
He asked, and then suggested that at $500 it would be a bargain, and at $400 people would run right out to buy it. And the big reveal, the girl lifted her shirt, displaying a bikini top and the price of
$99.
printed in bold black letters across her stomach.
We still need that on the soundboard.
I have isolated it. I think I gave it to Jeffrey. Sitting near the stage, New York Video Game Critics Circle founder Harold Goldberg heard somebody quip,
I hope that's a decimal point and not our navel.
Priced at $299 with a tiny screen and a form factor that didn't work for making phone calls or playing games, N-Gage was all but dead on arrival. The most visible development in the wireless game in 2003 was the launch of Nokia's N-Gage, the first gaming-centric cell phone. Rationalizing that enough supply-side business logic would make the product a success. I don't understand how that sentence works, but ignoring the customer value element, Nokia pushed forward over numerous objections and critiques to be met with disappointing results. The product had a price point
$299.
Design, the battery had to be removed to insert a game, and target market problems. As a result, we estimate less than 30,000 units were sold in the US during the year, far below expectations. Nokia claimed some 600,000 units had been sold worldwide. Nokia attempted a redo the following year with the N-Gage QD, a smaller, less expensive model that lacked many of the features of the original N-Gage, such as FM radio and MP3 support. I mean, nobody wanted FM radio on a phone. The MP3 is important, though.
Hey. Let me take that back. Yep. FM radio on cell service. What the transmitter, the actual just a little receiver, an antenna. Yes, it was gold. Loved it. Carry on. As you were.
Oh, I stepped away. So I'll take it. The take out the battery that replaced the cartridge, that was the dumbest mistake they made. Even the taco form was not that bad, but they solved the problem, removing the battery, when they redesigned it later. As soon as you have bad reviews, no one is going to check out the new version. N-Gage QD came out in 2004, but it was too little, too late. After a failed launch in a dismal year, N-Gage was all but forgotten. So forgotten, in fact, that when a Game Informer reporter named Lisa Mason spotted someone making a call on an N-Gage on the floor of E3 the following year, she exclaimed,
"Oh, look! There's one in the wild!"
The Walkman of the 21st century.
There's going to be a new baby in the family. It's not the PlayStation 3. Sony Computer Entertainment will be launching a new handheld entertainment platform in 2004. The name of this new platform is called PSP. Yes! PlayStation Portable. It's simple. The baby is in the incubator at the moment. And even as the father of the baby, I can't bring him out of the incubator. I can look at his face through the windows. He is very cute.
I'm afraid of what this baby's gonna look like. Though he didn't have a prototype to show during his 7-minute presentation, SE President Ken Kutaragi announced plans for a new portable PlayStation at E3 in 2003. This wasn't some vague announcement. Kutaragi described the screen and processor in great detail. He announced that it would play games stored on a medium called UMD, Universal Media Disk, showed a prototype disc, and announced that it could hold up to 1.8 gigabytes, making it
10 times larger than CD-ROM.
Kutaragi gave Nintendo fair warning. PlayStation Portable would be a beast, a technological wonder, the exact kind of hardware Nintendo chairman Hiroshi Yamauchi disdained above all else. He could not take advanced video game hardware. Yamauchi described the kinds of advances Sony was packing into its PlayStation Portable as
for technology's sake. Now, let me tell you about his brain. The latest 90-nanometer semiconductor technology, which has almost twice the capacity of the original PlayStation 2 semiconductor technology of 180 nanometer, will empower his abilities. A processor similar to that of the original PlayStation, providing an easy and familiar development process for PSP content creators, controls, graphics, sound, and input-output.
Hey, you can't call them content creators. Come on.
PSP has 2 de facto standard interfaces. One is USB version 2 for connectivity to other PSPs, or to PlayStation 2s, or even to other platforms such as PCs and mobile phones. The other interface is a memory stick slot for transportability of game data, as well as application in a wireless environment.
Kutaragi finished his E3 presentation by describing PSP as
the Walkman of the 21st century.
All right, there we go. Beautiful. Ken Kutaragi designating his new handheld as a Walkman wasn't idle talk. In the late 1970s, Sony's Walkman revolutionized portable electronics, well, really in the 80s, but up until the release of the Walkman, originally known as the Soundabout, the term portable electronics mostly referred to transistor radios that played AM and FM over tinny speakers. The portable cassette decks of the era were as long as a shoebox and 2/3 as tall, with low-fidelity speakers. They were actual tape recorders, low-fidelity devices designed for recording and replaying conversations rather than music. With its high-quality headphones and hi-fi sound, Sony's portable Walkman cassette player changed everything. Suddenly, consumers could listen to home stereo / car stereo quality music while walking, or jogging, or sitting, or on a crowded train. Walkman became the best-selling electronics product in history. I doubt that's actually true, but
Maybe it was at one point.
yeah, I'm sure for, until more stuff came out. By billing his PSP as a Walkman, Kutaragi dismissed Nintendo's Game Boy devices as modern-day equivalent of the transistor radio.
Oh, no.
From a technological standpoint, it was a fair comparison. Sony's new UMD media had nearly 30 times the storage capacity of Game Boy Advance cartridges. Game Boy Advance video cartridges held a max of 64 megabytes. Thanks, Ken.
We both.
Yeah.
We couldn't have looked that up on Wikipedia if we were really that curious. PSP
We already
also
did that for you.
PSP also played movies. Sony and Game Boy Advance played movies. It's just very low quality, but Sony.
It depends what you were watching on it.
Sony and other studios released hundreds of movies and television shows on UMD, including Casino Royale, Enter the Dragon, 50 First Dates, entire seasons of Doctor Who, 4 of the Harry Potter movies, and WrestleMania 24.
Ooh.
I had Casino Royale, and I had the Fantastic Four from that time.
Wait, which Casino Royale? The 2006 one, or the crazy one from the 60s?
Could have been both. Nintendo would attempt to meet this challenge with a line of video cartridges for GBA, but they were weak. PSP played movies like a portable DVD player. GBA video cartridges.
A portable DVD player in a way, just a tiny disc.
GBA video cartridges had low resolution graphics and slow frame rates. Some had animated movies like Shrek or Shark Tale. Most featured Pokemon, Disney, or Nickelodeon cartoons. Hiroshi Yamauchi could crow all day about Sony's obsession with technology, but it didn't change.
I don't think that's what the word crow means. Yeah. that you're crowing when you're bragging about something.
But it didn't change the fact that PSP would make Game Boy Advance obsolete. GBA SP featured a dimly lit 2.9-inch screen with a 240 by 160 resolution and 32,000 colors. I think it's pretty well lit. I don't think it's.
I do too. I had no trouble with my SP. Yeah.
No, it's just mixing up the regular GBA with the SP.
Probably.
And also, some of the later SPs were backlit as well, so
yeah,
there was like a second revision.
That's the one I have. Are you saying SP, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were trying to figure out what he's meaning.
Okay. Yeah, I have a backlit one as well. Yeah.
PSP's bright 4.3-inch screen had nearly twice the resolution, 480 by 272 pixels, and 1.6 million colors.
16.7 even.
No, 16.7. Sorry.
No worries.
I think you're Kaz.
Me?
Yes.
Yeah. We look at PSP as being a mobile entertainment device. We're trying to create a new market.
Sony hoped PSP would cause the handheld market to evolve the same way that PlayStation, and especially PlayStation 2, advanced the console world. But announcing a portable PlayStation and actually building one were two different things. Ken Kutaragi had a knack for delivering on his promises, but the PSP project wasn't nearly as far along as he led his audience to believe. No studios have received PSP kits, dev kits, specifically. Yeah. The hardware hadn't been finalized. At the time Kutaragi made the announcement, PSP was more aspirational than reality. I don't think that's true.
It was still in the womb.
Jumpman.
We, Digital Eclipse, were developing this game called Def Jr. for the original Xbox. We were known for being a handheld company that did a lot of movie games for handhelds, so when we tried to show off our Xbox game, no one took us seriously. Even though they thought that the world was great and the characters were cool, most often they'd say, "Well, you guys don't really have console experience." It was 2003, the year they first announced the PSP. That was a breakthrough for us because we had developed this demo and we thought, great, someone's come up with a handheld that sounds really powerful. This might be the opportunity for us to bring Def Jr. to this platform where people might take it more seriously. We immediately ran into someone and apologized we knew over at Sony. It was at that show right after they made the announcement. We were like, we're super excited. What do we have to do to get the hardware? What do you know about it? He quit back. I can tell you this. It's just a memo, he said. There's no hardware. There's nothing we can share right now.
So here's the thing. He's saying that this was in 2003. What Kutaragi was doing was in 2004. Where did we have it? 2003? No, I don't think they announced it at E3 2003, because I looked this up when I was trying to find an image to post on social media. So I think he's again not researching how these timelines actually work. Mike Micah and his senior producer Chris Charla were grassroots gamers who'd entered the industry.
So I have to ask: was there a certain requirement in naming for working there? Micah, Chris Charla.
Well, Frank worked there, so it doesn't work.
Well.
Micah and his senior producer Chris Charla were grassroots gamers who'd entered the industry for their love of games. They both started out in the field as journalists writing for Next Generation. As the former editor-in-chief of the magazine, Charla had gotten to know many of the top executives at Sony Computer Entertainment America on a fairly personal basis. Oh, how personal. Charla is now working as senior director for content creation and programs at Microsoft. How's that going for him? He knew their habits and their interests.
This was Chris Carla's idea. We knew that some of the higher-ups at Sony and Foster City were avid smokers, so he was like, let's get a bunch of Def Jr. material together and just hang out outside Sony. One of these guys is bound to come out to smoke. When we're there, we'll just be very casual, and we'll talk about this thing we're doing for the PSP, and if we want to find out about the hardware. Yeah, 'cause that'll work. So we're out there, and the person who came out to us was Molly Smith, SCE Senior Director of Communications and Brand Development. She knew Chris a little bit from his magazine days. She asked, have you ever talked to Andrew House, the SCEA Executive Vice President, yet?
Update, Chris Charla is still at Xbox.
Oh,
as far as we know.
That's an accomplishment.
In the months before the game development kits arrived, Sony released a PSP emulator that allowed designers to create and run games in a simulated PSP environment. Having received Andrew House's support, Micah and Charla had the inside track for receiving an emulator. Once they had a demo of Death Jr. working on the emulator, they returned to Sony to show it off. Oh, hold on. Okay, yeah. You again, Jumpman.
Oh, sorry. We said, hey, we've got something up and running. Can we show it to you? They said, yeah, sure, come over. So we showed Def Jr. running on a PSP emulator to a couple of employees that we knew. They were kind of holding their cards close to their chest. And one of them was like, can you just wait a minute? I'm going to go bring some other people. He goes out of the room and brings in some other people. We show the demo again, and some of them go out of the room and bring other people. By the end of it, we have Andrew House and Molly Smith in a room, and we showed the demo again. What, did everyone else leave? We couldn't gauge if they were excited by it or anything. Finally, Chris Carla asks, so what do you think of the demo? How does it compare to the other PSP games? God, I can only do 6 voices to it, though. They were like, we've never seen any other PSP games. This is the first one that we've seen.
Hey.
A bit of damning with faint praise right there.
When SCEA executives demonstrated PSP at the 2004 Game Developers Conference in San Jose, Death Jr. was the first game they showed. Yamauchi's crazy idea. And yes, Yamauchi.
That's right.
Jumpman, you were pairing Kaplan.
It's not like he created the hardware or what it looks like. He envisioned what he wanted the physical capabilities to be.
In the early 1990s, Sega may have stolen Nintendo's console game Thunder with Genesis, but that rivalry with Sega didn't really extend into the handheld market. The Sega tried to make it a fight with a system called Game Gear, but Game Gear sales proved inconsequential. No, they did good. Like, it was fine.
Yeah. Everyone acts like the Game Gear bombs, but it was a success. You know?
Yeah. Between Game
I
Boy...
had one.
There you go. And how many batteries did you use?
We don't need to talk about that.
I should say in its defense, with modern AA batteries, you can get a decent life out of it these days. I know it was different in the 90s, but these days it's actually pretty good.
Between Game Boy and Game Boy Color, Nintendo sold nearly 120 million units. By comparison, Sega sold 10 million Game Gears, many of which were purchased by people who already owned Game Boys. What does that matter? Like, what? They sold the unit. It's fine. Sega's second attempt at the handheld market, the Nomad, sold about 1 million units. I mean, I don't think it was ever that serious. I think, just one of the many hardware things Sega was doing.
I was a unicorn. I didn't own a Game Boy. I had only owned a Game Gear growing up until we got Game Boy Color. And let me tell you, when you are the kid that owns a Game Gear, you are the one that always doesn't make friends at lunch. It's really cool. It was a really fun thing to be.
Yeah.
By 2003, everyone could see that PS2 would outsell the original PlayStation and that Xbox had legs. Nintendo's Game Boy Advance business is doing well. It sold just over 11 million Game Boy Advance SPs in 2003, another 5.6 original GB. Oh my god, he keeps going back to these things. Like, don't need to do it a million times.
It has legs but no arms.
Nintendo's console business, on the other hand, was at a standstill. Yamauchi placed a temporary halt on game production as Nintendo of America slashed the price from $149 to $99 in an effort to sell off excess inventory. Everybody does that at some point, even Sony. Like, there were rumors...
That's when I bought my GameCube, was after it fell to $99.
I think we had got it at $149, but I don't think we ever got it with any bundle or anything. In the video game business, 10 million hardware units sold is considered the critical mass needed to maintain a viable business. Nintendo had sold 12.8 million GameCubes worldwide by the end of 2003. Unlike Sega trying to survive with a population of 7 million Dreamcast users, Nintendo had a break-even console business and a thriving market for Game Boy Advance. Shane, can you read?
Oh, yes, I can. What am I reading?
Right here.
Whatever you like. Sometimes we try to do authentic voices. Sometimes we do silly voices. Sometimes we just use our own voices. But that's part of the fun of this, reading the block quotes.
I have no idea who Jeff Brown is.
You don't need to.
It's like network television, but boy, it'd be a dope to get out of the business just because you came in third. It's like asking if ABC should get out of broadcasting. You can come in third and still make a handsome profit.
Love, wonderful.
You see, there's someone who knows
their.
There's someone who knows their shit.
Yes, I think you're more practiced in voices than any of us here.
I
Shane.
apologize to Jeff Brown.
I believe that he's like an analyst or something, so we have no idea what he actually sounds like.
Just hears the podcast, goes, that's not all I sound like.
Ken Kudaragi's PSP announcement at E3 2003 meant that Nintendo needed something new in the handheld market, something bigger and more powerful than an updated Game Boy. Well, there's a lot of other things that go into this, but he's probably not going to touch on any of those. Even though I believe he cited Iwata Asks like way earlier, but he's not gonna tell the right story. In November, Nintendo chairman Hiroshi Yamauchi announced his company's operating losses for the first half of the fiscal year. It had been 41 years since Nintendo had made such an announcement. 6 months later, Yamauchi revealed that his company's sales fell 21 billion yen short of the 54 billion yen figure it had posted 1 year earlier. He blamed some of the problems on the slumping US dollar. At the time, the yen was appreciating against the dollar, which contributed to Nintendo's losses. In January 2003, $1 US was worth 119 yen. By December, it was 107 yen to the dollar, effectively dropping the net gain of the US sales by 10%. Man, just as the recent Japanese tourist that went in when the yen was low, the Japanese tourist to America, we're making bank at that time. Combative, mercurial, and almost Trump-like? No, what? What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Read the room.
Yeah.
Yamauchi spoke his mind without sugarcoating his words. After Square abandoned Nintendo, he famously stated that RPG players were...
Nothing
I
apparently.
already skipped ahead. Hold on. Depressed gamers who like to sit alone in their homes and play slow games.
I can't remember if we looked at this one earlier, and I think it's a rumored statement, if anything. On another occasion, he began a particular harsh tirade about Microsoft by stating,
"There are many people in the industry that know nothing about games."
He quoted this one earlier, so what does he actually cite this to? Okay, an IGN article I do not trust.
An IBM, no, not an IBM article, an IBM listicle.
List.
Listicle.
Yeah, I mean, I would be. I'm actually gonna search this real quick just because I want to know if that's actually, if they have a source on it, which I doubt. Oh God. Okay, the formatting on IGN is, severely broken, but I do not believe that they actually have any citations to these things that were said. So, yeah. Even though Satoru Iwata had taken over the company's day-to-day operation, Yamauchi still obsessed over Nintendo's every move. Not one to be seduced by technology. He'd always surrounded himself with like-minded engineers who'd prized innovation over polygon counts and processor speeds. That was entirely his idea. Nobody else in the company shaped this presumption. GameCube was the closest Yamauchi ever came to entering a technological arms race, and he'd been burned by it.
I think the N64 was the closest they ever came to a technological arms race, but okay. I have been saying this for some time, but customers are not interested in grand games with higher quality graphics and sound and epic stories. Cutting-edge technologies and multiple functions do not necessarily lead to more fun. The excessively hardware-oriented way of thinking is totally wrong, but manufacturers are just throwing money at developing higher performance hardware. Nintendo has no plans to release a so-called next generation video game console at the next year's Electronic Entertainment Expo in Las Vegas. We will rather make a new proposal that uses the GameCube at its core. Only people who do not know the video game business would advocate the release of next-generation machines when people are not interested in cutting-edge technologies.
2004 or so.
I mean, I trust that this is a real quote. I do suspect that there might be a little bit of mangling in the translation here. Like, a new proposal that uses GameCube at its core. I know people are going to assume that means the Wii, but I don't think I don't think he would have even understood that the Wii had that. And yeah, so this is a little curious statement. I mean, the epic stories thing, that's just, he's wrong. Like, as prescient as he was, people do care about that stuff.
It's going to be huge. We have Shigeru Miyamoto working on it. Smart guy, smartest guy in video games.
God.
And Satoru Iwata, brilliant. I was just talking to Satoru the other day. I was like, Satoru, remember when you were at that stupid little company and I brought you to Nintendo? That's right. I made Satoru Iwata. I made him, and he's so great. He's so smart.
Oh boy, we come to these things to get away from the world, but
I think I need a shower.
Well, hey, Kent brought it in for us, so.
Yeah, Kent opened the door. I just barreled through it.
Like Donkey Kong. In the late 1990s, Yamauchi had come up with a hardware innovation of his own, a game system that would be built around 2 screens instead of 1. No, that's not how this works.
He just said, which he himself said in Nintendo Magic, it's like, I just told them I think the next system should have 2 screens. Like, he came up with nothing else about it.
This wasn't the first time Nintendo had experimented with 2 screens. The arcade game Punch-Out had a second screen, as did the Play's Choice 10. No, not the Play's Choice 10. The Versus system had 2 screens.
No, it was the Play's Choice 10. And the only reason that the Play's Choice 10 had 2 screens is because it was an upgrade kit for Punch-Out. The dedicated ones only had 1 screen.
Ah, okay.
Now, there's versions of the Play's Choice 10 that don't have 2 screens, because I have one near me. So I know that that's the case.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, because there were dedicated ones that only had 1 screen. There were upgrade kits for Donkey Kong machines that only had 1 screen, and then there was an upgrade kit for Punch-Out which had 2 screens and a slightly different firmware to accommodate that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you should have said Versus system, anyways. Then he would have been correct. So did several handheld Game & Watch LCD games such as Donkey Kong, Oil Panic, and Mario Brothers. Jumpman, Perrin Kaplan.
A system with 2 screens was actually Mr. Yamauchi's original idea. People had a really hard time adapting to it. Just the concept was very difficult for people. So then the question was, why would I need that?
I mean, why would you need that? The developers were asking those questions. At the time, Nintendo tried several experiments with portable screens. Portable screens? That's not the same thing! Factor 5, the company that made Rogue Squadron, received a prototype 3D screen for GameCube and went right to work with it.
The 3DS screen actually existed for a long time. Originally, Takada-san sent it to us. I believe that was right after Rogue Leader. We get this little prototype, which attached to the top of the GameCube, and it was the 3D screen technology from the 3DS. He basically said to us, go play around with it. See what you can do with it. And so we used the first months of 2002 to get our new renderer up for the indoor forest and for a few other things that we were working on. We got that going in 3D and had a really nice 3D demo together. And then at the last minute, unfortunately, well, fortunately probably, because the whole thing would have been a huge flop, they pulled the plug on the accessory.
Last minute to what? They never announced it. They were not...
Right, exactly.
With all the excitement surrounding PlayStation Portable, Nintendo needed to do something to restake its claim on the handheld market. I mean, its claim was pretty well established. Sony wasn't the only company invading that space. There were also unconfirmed reports that Microsoft might have a handheld in development. Yeah, just wait, is this 2025?
I do remember there were always rumors that Microsoft would do a handheld Xbox.
Nokia had already announced its new and improved version of N-Gage, and then there was Tapwave, a tiny company that seemed to come out of nowhere with a truly impressive palm-based handheld called Zodiac. Shane, have you covered the Zodiac yet?
No, but I know it, and I would never say that was truly impressive.
The Microsoft handheld never materialized, but Zodiac caught a lot of positive attention. Its 3.8-inch screen was a third larger than Game Boy SP's screen and boasted nearly twice the resolution. Zodiac's architecture included a Motorola processor, only the hip kids using those, an ATI graphics accelerator, and a Yamaha sound chip. What, you still using a sound chip? Come on.
But don't worry, guys. It's going to be great. Microsoft's got a Windows Phone. Everyone's going to love it. Don't even worry about it. Don't worry. We're good. We're good. We're great. Everything is going great at Microsoft. Don't worry about it. Don't even worry about it.
It had an elegantly ergonomic case, and thanks to its Palm operating system, it was a PDA as well as a handheld game system. A lot of game journalists wrote complimentary reviews about Zodiac, but the editors at the big tech magazines unabashedly adored it. Wired, CNET, and PC World singled it out as a product worth watching. They needn't have bothered. Most of the successful hardware launches cost hundreds of millions of dollars, money Tapwave didn't have. Zodiac came out at the end of 2003 and was officially pronounced dead in June 2005. Hey, that's longer than the Atari 7800s, or the 5200s, so, good on them. In early 2004, Nintendo quietly invited a few journalists in to see a game system called DS that combined Game.com's touchscreen and stylus with N-Gage's small area connectivity, albeit with Wi-Fi instead of Bluetooth technology. The new system opened like a checkbook and had 2 screens. Its form factor resembled such multi-screen Game & Watch products such as Donkey Kong and Mickey and Donald's. I mean, you already were saying this earlier, but whatever. In its early game demos, Nintendo put more effort into establishing the benefits of the second screen than into the gameplay. In one game, for instance, players steered a submarine through underwater caves. The submarine was displayed at the top screen, and the controls were displayed at the touch-sensitive bottom screen. I mean, it's a capacitive touch screen. not touch sensitive. That's kind of a weird way to say that. And another player's guide around Baby Mario from Yoshi's Island as, supported by 3 balloons, he floated through an airborne obstacle course.
If your mobile phone had 2 screens, just think about what you could do. Yeah, Samsung actually did it, mate. You could be texting someone and watching a movie.
Yeah, second screening all the way.
That would be like incredible if my phone had 2 screens. I would go wild. But people really had a hard time moving from the one screen. I mean, TV has a one screen, phones have one screen, and movie theaters have one giant screen.
The showdown at E3 2004.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the latest addition to the PlayStation family.
Ridge Racer!
Remember that one?
Jumpman, you are ready.
I am honored. Well, the wait is over. This is Nintendo DS.
Reggie Fils-Aimé, former chief operating officer, Nintendo of America. He says former sometimes, and then it's like he speaks as if in the present, that he's in the present tense other times. It makes no sense. Editors! Editors!
Unfortunately, I remember being there at E3 when he revealed this to a completely depressed audience that frowned when he pulled out the 3DS and didn't have 3 screens.
A select few reporters had seen one or both of the new game systems by E3 2004, but bound by non-disclosure agreements, they hadn't published their thoughts. No photos had been leaked. No reviews had appeared. You can't review something that's not out. That's like terrible ethics. When Sony Computer Entertainment America President Kaz Hirai triumphantly raised a PSP at Sony's pre-show press conference, the entire auditorium seemed mesmerized. The handheld console was pure Sony, slick, glossy, and undeniably high-tech. Its screen took up nearly 2/3 of its face.
Its beautiful baby face.
Yes, of course.
Now outside the incubator.
Hirai asked the audience.
I actually have a pretty good Hirai. Could I swing on this one?
Go
Sure,
ahead.
go ahead.
Why is the PSP so important to this stage in the game?
Then he answered his own question.
The proliferation of mobile devices is at an all-time high, and in fact, many of us carry around more than one mobile device. Today, the worldwide market for mobile devices, whether it be cell phones, digital music devices, toilet paper dispensers, productivity tools, or gaming machines,
Or
is
flamethrowers.
more than more than 1.4 billion units worldwide. PlayStation Portable will enter an already crowded space, but one with many growth opportunities.
Opportunities. You love to hear it.
That's smooth talking.
That's almost to Three Dog from Fallout 3. Though Hirai described PSP as a...
Oh, I don't see.
It's not a block quote. It's just a tiny.
Handheld video game system.
He spent much of his presentation listing the new device's non-gaming uses.
It also has the ability to deliver high-quality movies. Sure, why not? Music and video, as well as other forms of digital entertainment content through one central device.
TV. On top of everything else, PSP offered Wi-Fi and infrared communications, allowing both internet access and network gaming. During that initial E3 presentation, Hirai stated that PSP's rechargeable battery would last 10 hours, making it competitive with current systems, quote unquote. But later, Sony revised that estimate to 4 to 6 hours for games and less for video playback. Jacob, you get to take Hideo Kojima.
Was someone else Kojima before?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
I have a pretty good Kojima.
Okay, all right.
You go ahead with your Kojima.
I'm kidding. Please, I'm gonna.
We love it.
Is it a game console? Oh, is that him? Is it the whole quote from him?
Yeah, that's the whole quote.
This is a block quote.
Okay. Is it a game console? Is a question that does not have to be asked. You don't necessarily have to play games on the PSP. You don't have to watch that's how he says it, by the way. You don't have to watch videos either. You don't have to listen to music. I mean, who listens to music? This is dumb. Let the consumer choose between videos, music, and games. Let the consumer choose whether she feels like watching movies, listening to music, or playing video games or playing games every day. Please buy my games. Everything's still great here at Konami. Thanks, guys.
Oh, Fonzie, I didn't know that you were doing so well.
Hideo Kojima, creator of the Metal Gear Solid series. I believe this is you, Jacob. Tetsuya Mizuguchi.
Let's see. I was so excited. I love PSP. I still love that platform. I love music. I wanted to create a puzzle that people could experience music from. The PSP was a very good platform for that. DS was fun, but from the music point of view and the high-res point of view, the PSP was a good fit for my inspiration.
But manufacturing a device that combined a game system, movie viewer, and MP3 player with a high-resolution screen and Sony-quality audio wouldn't be cheap. PSP may have done what Nintendo... You can't just throw that in there, Kent! Come on! You did not earn that. But its launch price was
invoked it at the start.
$249, 19,800 yen. PSP would cost more in the United States than in Japan. It's just, yeah.
Okay.
That's how it is. Just $50 less than N-Gage and PlayStation 2, and $150 more than the price of a Game Boy Advance SP. Alright, Kaz. Whichever Kaz.
Oh, wait. Is that me?
Yeah,
It
bottom.
Oh, sorry. Bottom.
The initial target audience for PSP, is more reminiscent of our approach in the Honor console space. Oh, sorry, the home console space. Honor console. You know, the Honor console is what they made Klingon consoles out of. Anyway, we will be looking at a primary target of 18 to 34-year-old males and those users apt to embrace how new technologies and products early on, like the Zune. This group is one of the largest on PlayStation 2, and we know that they buy more games with more disposable income than any other group on this planet. And trust me, when Blu-ray comes out, they're going to be right on that too. They're going to be buying Blu-ray up in loads, just tons of it. It's going to be great. Sony's got a bright future, guys. We're going to be making discs forever. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah. Hirai's announcement eerily echoed statements made by Trip Hawkins 10 years earlier about targeting the Playboy demographic with his 3DO multiplayer. Like N-Gage, Sony's new handheld would take the Swiss Army knife approach, though unlike N-Gage, PSP boasted an impressive screen, a more realistic price, and a genuine pedigree in games. Hirai announced that 99 publishers had committed to make games for the new system, including Konami, Electronic Arts, Square, and Ubisoft. You want a Just Dance game on your PSP, right? Yeah? It wasn't even out yet at the time, but whatever. The reaction to PSP was enthusiastic, both among game developers and in the press.
Every so often, a product comes along which, despite extravagant claims and sky-high expectations, actually lives up to the hype. The new PlayStation Portable is that sort of product.
Alex.
And I think most people thought that the PSP was going to take over and dominate the handheld space because it was just so much more technically impressive. It could do 3D, plus it could do 2D just as well as any Nintendo handheld. Sony at that point just could do no wrong.
That's not at all what I sound like.
Wrong, Shane. Kojima again.
Oh, God.
You put yourself on the spot here.
Exactly. When you do this, you know what you do.
I am more interested in PSP as a consumer than a game maker. It's something I would like to carry around. Personally, if I carried around this PSP, video games would be lower on my priority list. Yeah.
Love it.
I've got a big one.
Nintendo staged the last of the major pre-show press conferences at E3 2004. After attending Sony's conference, many attendees harbored a deep-rooted suspicion that Nintendo's situation had just gone from bad to worse. But that was nothing new. There was a constant feeling that Nintendo was the Titanic and Sony was the iceberg. Starting with the first Electronic Entertainment Expo held in 1995, the year Sony launched the original PlayStation with
$299.
There'd been this odd dissonance between Nintendo's E3 promises and its end-of-year results. With each successive year, Nintendo lost another 5 to 10% of its share of the console market. But Nintendo executives always begun presentations describing new levels of success and promising another great year, even when their business was in decline. No other company would do such a thing. No way that we would ever get a disingenuous look at the success of a company. It's just they don't do that. That's wrong.
No.
Oh. Well,
Corporations are some of the most ethical people on the planet.
Of course. I mean, they are people. It was decided in court, so
Exactly.
Now, on the heels of Sony's unveiling, it's a disc-based internet-exploring, movie-playing, stereophonic masterpiece. Reggie Fils-Aimé unveiled the Nintendo DS. Jumpman.
Reginator, get over here.
Give it a moment. Okay. He's got some issues. Give him a little bit of time. Yes, the most exciting dramatic climax in this book is the reveal of the DS.
We are standing at the edge of the cliff on the edge of the earth.
Right now, Hideo Kojima is in the audience, and he's stroking his newly acquired PSP feverishly for the fear of what is to come next. You don't get it. It plays music. Do you not understand that? I can play my music from my PSP.
Well, Fozzie, it's okay. Everyone kind of has their own thing, all right?
Am I coming through now? Or...
Yeah, we got you.
Ah, thank God.
It's not easy being Konami.
From the time we announced its code name, you've known these initials to represent its most obvious feature: dual screens. But that's not what the initials stand for us. DS has a much larger and relevant meaning. DS, Developer's System. Not to be confused with Simulation System. In creating DS, we've given the world's most talented game makers new tools to work with, new ways to express their imaginations, and of course, in the end, new enjoyment for all of us. The result is this: DS not only changes Nintendo, it changes our industry.
Meanwhile, Hideo Kojima's really upset in the audience because he thought DS stood for duck shoes.
Who would be Kojima's Miss Piggy?
Let's not think on that. Fils-Aimé defended Nintendo's decision to entirely rethink the handheld market rather than create a Game Boy with a better screen.
I like to think of it like buying a car. Admit it. Your left brain looks at the vehicle in terms of numbers. What's the horsepower, the towing capacity, the 0 to 60? That's our competitor's approach. But your right brain is different. There's only one question out there. Sitting behind the wheel, where will this baby take me? In other words, do you want to go just a little bit faster down the same streets you've always driven, or down a new road to places that you've never seen before? That's the difference with DS. And I should point out the left brain and the right brain thing has been discredited.
Yeah, the best part is, too, that's the exact same speech he gave at Pizza Hut when introducing the stuffed crust.
Love to see it. Coming from Nintendo, the company that ultimately marketed new platforms by promising to publish another Mario, new Zelda, an updated Mario Kart, and maybe a Star Fox or Super Smash Brothers, taunting competitors about going down the same streets sounded hypocritical. Kent, you're building up this stuff in your head. Like, everybody has franchises, IPs that they hang on to. It's a thing, and people like Nintendo for that. Sorry.
And the important thing is, trying to fit those into the new molds,
Absolutely. N-Gage has Snake.
Exactly. Well,
And
did
we
it have
talked about
Snake?
that earlier.
No. We said the Nokia phones had Snake. Did N-Gage have Snake? I don't actually know.
N-Gage has 2 Snake games. N-Gage has Snake, and then N-Gage 2.0 has another Snake game, and they're both in 3D.
And Sony has Ridge Racer.
I remember that one. Nintendo press conferences were always packed with loyalists. It's the Stewart, England believers. King over the water.
All the E3 audience members are paid actors.
Reacting.
No one actually likes Nintendo.
Oh boy,
they're a dumb company. I call them dumb Kendo.
Oh, man.
All right, Donnie, back to the retirement home with you.
Reacting more enthusiastically than the spectators at the Sony conference, the audience cheered as Fizumi discussed the benefits of 2 screens. Then they erupted when he unveiled the new Metroid coming out on DS.
But 2 screens are just the first of the 2s that define the DS. Let's move on to the next pair, 2 media bays. One accommodates DS software, easily holding games with 1 gigabit of data and well beyond. The other plays all your favorite GBA games. Multiple companies have used that trick before. That's right. Backwards compatibility means an instant library of over 500 titles, none of which take advantage of the new 2-screen gimmick.
But it was nice to be able to have that, because, GBA sold a good deal.
And of course, as everyone's pointed out, if you break the top screen off your DS, it's still a perfectly good Game Boy Advance, because those things are bulletproof.
Not everything went over as well. The audience may have cheered long and loud when Fizumi announced backward compatibility, but only the most loyal of loyalists broke the silence when he announced a built-in microphone that could be
married to voice recognition programs.
Okay,
yeah, voice recognition. All right.
We get it, Kent. You hate Nintendo. What do they call it? Nintendo kitties, Sony ponies, and Microsoft.
It's because only 3 people turned down interviews for the first book, and one of them was Hiroshi Yamauchi.
That's right, everybody. The Nintendo DS is backwards compatible with the 64DD. For the first time, North Americans will be able to play SimCity 64.
Totally worth it. DS would have 2 forms of wireless communications, one that would allow up to 16 people to play and communicate in a range of up to 100 feet, and Wi-Fi compatibility, which would enable users to access the internet. Yeah, see, they were he's like, oh, Nintendo's so behind on the internet, but they allowed you to browse the internet on a handheld in 2004.
Nintendo had Satellaview. Nintendo was
that's not internet. That is not internet.
That's
like
still something. You know what? You know what? That's not fair. You got to give them some credit for doing something like that.
Yeah, I mean, they were that's the thing. They were probing at network ideas. I mean, longer than pretty much anybody, because they had, they were looking for ways to expand their market.
And you know what? Can we also not forget X-Band? Because look, I get it. If those 6 people had friends, it would have been way more successful.
Hey, X-Band did somewhat okay. At least they got bought out, so they were able to, just move along and with the rest of their careers.
Ooh, they were doing so well, they got someone else to take on their shit. Wow.
Fizumi stated that DS would come to market with a different name, it didn't, and be launched in Japan and the United States by the end of 2004. That final announcement was redundant. In the months leading up to E3, Nintendo of America had already announced the $149 launch price and November 21 release date. He's like telling...
Did you just get on somebody for being redundant? Did you just do that?
Good God. Comparing PSP and DS became the hot topic at E3, and the general consensus was that Sony clearly came out on top. The first night of the show, Nagai Kroll attended a small dinner with a couple of Activision spokesmen and another reporter. When the reporter...
I wonder who that other reporter was.
When the reporter asked him what he thought of DS, Kroll responded,
"It was only slightly less horrific than I imagined. The DS was a crazy device. I mean, look, history has proven it out. I'm not saying I was wrong. Obviously, the DS was a runaway hit. It proves the odd genius of Nintendo."
Kroll wasn't alone. PSP games looked better and played like console games. People made snide comments about two small screens not being better than one larger high-resolution screen. The games at the Nintendo booth did little to change people's minds. Mario 64 DS looked and played like Mario 64 on the N64 because it's a remake! That's why!
Yeah. Yes.
Which had been a breakthrough game nearly a decade earlier. Marketing Game Boy Advance as a handheld Super Nintendo may not have been a great strategy 4 years earlier, but it did fine.
It may have been.
And some of those Super Nintendo re-releases on the Advance did pretty well.
But people weren't looking for a handheld N64, not in the shadow of PSP, which was promising to be a handheld PS1. But, you know. At the Sony booth, PSP games really did look and play like miniature versions of PS2 games. Driving past the airport in the PSP version of...
Say it, Shane. Say it, Shane.
It's...
No. The PSP version of...
Oh, I'm sorry. Bridge Racer!
And an enormous passenger jet took off in the very near background. And again.
It's Bridge Racer!
For DS, looked sparse and primitive by comparison. Wait, there was Ridge Racer on the DS? What?
That
okay.
doesn't...
Yeah, I don't think so.
Sound credible, but I mean, it's a Namco game. They can release on whatever they want.
Hold on.
Seems like it exists.
Yeah, there was a Ridge Racer DS. It was a launch title. It was a remake of Ridge Racer 64.
And
there's barely enough info about it.
I mean, it's just, forgettable game, but... At the Nintendo booth, Sega showed a game called Feel the Magic XYXX that epitomized the spirit of the DS. It was a collection of many zany minigames that, in theory, represented a man's attempt to woo a woman of his dreams. So it's a remake of Oops. Okay. What made this game stand out was that it required players to use a stylish touchpad and microphone. The first minigame, for instance, begins with the main character accidentally swallowing a goldfish. To help him survive, players had to guide the fish up the protagonist's gullet using the stylus. Some of Feel the Magic's minigames had people rubbing the stylus back and forth so furiously that it scratched the screen.
Yes, rubbing the stylus.
This was my first Nintendo DS game, and if you thought the Game Gear gave me no friends, oh boy.
Well, at least, when it came out for me, people were getting DSs. And I was getting left behind with the GBA. Never had a DS.
That was me too. Yeah.
I understand that you sometimes talk about Virtual Boy and DS as if they have something in common. The only thing that was special about Virtual Boy was that the image popped out. In the case of the DS, the two screens are not the only unique feature. The Nintendo Virtual Boy was a tabletop system built to a visor. It was released worldwide in the summer of 1995 and discontinued the following year.
Yeah,
Thanks,
we know.
Yeah. Didn't he talk about it earlier in this book? I mean, I know he did in the first book, but didn't it come up? I don't know.
think so.
I think it did. Come on now, Kent.
Let's see.
Also, I would like to say this. If you're reading this book or watching this stream and you don't know what the Virtual Boy is, stop watching now. It's a prerequisite.
I mean, now you can play it on Switch too, so. In an on-site interview, Nintendo's Shigeru Miyamoto admitted that he had not foreseen how brutally some gamers might treat the hardware, and said that he would need to make changes, but he would not specify what those changes might be. They didn't do nothing. They didn't do a single thing. That's just complying to Western game journalists who think that everything needs to bow down to them. Not everyone saw the PSP as unbeatable. On the first day of the show, Squaresoft president Yoichi Wada allowed a reporter to tag along, and a couple executives stepped out for a cigarette. Okay, we're getting the cigarettes here again.
I wonder what reporter that was who tagged along.
Like so many E3 discussions that year, Wada's conversation eventually turned to DS versus PSP. Wada listened for a while other executives marveled at PSP's screen and power. Then he said he believed DS would be more popular. Shane, you can take Yoichi Wada.
Well,
Very
where
bottom
did...
here.
Oh, okay. What did he even sound like?
You don't need to know.
People are not looking for the handheld version of their console games.
He said.
Nintendo understands this.
That is exactly, it's like he's here in the room with us. That is exactly what
I
he
can't believe Olaf Olafsson has returned.
Oh,
I was
boy.
wondering what happened to my long-lost brother.
An even more surprised evangelist for the Nintendo point of view was Metal Gear Solid creator Hideo Kojima, a committed technophile whose games were most closely identified with Sony. I mean, he... Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, he'd already, like, the Twin Snakes remake, or the remake.
Yeah, he'd
of
already
Metal
done
Gear
stuff
Solid.
on GameCube.
Yeah. Not that surprising. Anyways.
It really isn't. If I am restricted to games only, I want to see areas explored with portable game systems that cannot be explored with home consoles. Portable systems should not be smaller versions of home consoles that you carry around. The games you play on portable systems should take advantage of the fact that they can be carried around, leading into new forms of gameplay. For example, with the Boktai series, people throw out their video games because they're bad. No, with the Boktai series, changes in the environment, such as sunlight or the lack thereof, affect the gameplay. You just put it in your pocket and then it's nighttime. But portable games should not be like a regular meal carried around in a fast food dish. It's more of a dish that you can enjoy only because of the fact that it is takeout food. That's the kind of experience I expect portable game systems to provide. Excuse me, I'm going to Arby's.
Kojima's Boktai, The Sun is in Your Hand, was a GBA title. The game cartridge included a photometric light center.
Did you admit to taking my leftovers from the fridge?
Maybe.
Jumpman.
I played the hell out of Untold Legends on PSP. Oh, no, wait, this is John Romero.
Yes.
I played the hell out of Untold Legends on the PSP and the Patapon. I love the feel of the PSP and the form factor. But the DS was just incredible. I liked that it had 2 screens, and you could see games like Contact by Atlas that took advantage of both screens and used them in real interesting ways. I thought it was great that they broke the paradigm. It was a really good update from the Game Boy Advance.
In one-on-one meetings with reporters, Satoru Iwata admitted that he had not yet had the opportunity to try PSP, though he'd certainly heard about it. In what would become something of a company slogan, he then touted all the innovative options the DS would bring to gaming. Fundamentally, the PSP isn't going to be able to do anything as far as displaying that you can't do on a current system, whereas we are interested more in great graphics and screen. We are looking more at the creative end, and the PSP isn't going to bring anything new creatively to the development process. The E3 Game Critics Awards, which are voted on by a select panel of journalists attending the show, probably including one Stephen L. Kent, are not entirely fair. Historically, the editors selecting the awards are so busy visiting large companies like Sony and Microsoft they seldom have time to venture beyond the west and south halls of the Los Angeles Convention Center. The smaller companies relegated to the Kentia Hall Kentia? Sorry. All right. Are seldom considered for Game Critics Awards. Yeah, it's almost
Let
like
me
they're not
guess.
doing their job.
Let me guess, that was his favorite part of the build.
It was made for me.
In 2004, Sony PlayStation Portable won the Best of Show award, the highest award at the show. Winning Best of Show was no guarantee of success. Yeah, because it's just a bunch of journalists having opinions. They don't know anything, as you demonstrated with Nagai Kroll earlier. In 2001, critics gave that prize to GameCube. The Battle of the Handhelds wasn't the only topic at E3 in 2004. That was the year that actor Vin Diesel teamed up with... Oh my god, what the hell is this transition? Teamed up with Vivendi and Swedish game development house named Starbreeze Studios to create the Chronicles of Riddick Escape from Butcher Bay, a strictly single-player game with astounding graphics. Microsoft made console games a social activity that year with Halo 2, and Rockstar ignited yet another battle in morality wars with the unveiling of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. In the second night of the show, Nagai Kroll found himself in a debate with Jay Allard, Microsoft's VP of Xbox platform, over dinner. The topic, of course, was who had the better handheld.
Well, it was me, Jay Allard, Jeff Keighley was there, Annie McNamara, and Aaron Greenberg, who's now the #2 guy in marketing at Xbox. We were at dinner in a steakhouse in downtown LA, and Jay got on the subject of the PlayStation Portable, and it's like, it's going to be a flop. I said, no, it's going to be on the same trajectory as PlayStation 2. I don't know who proposed the bet, but the substance of the bet was, if I was right, he was going to have to wear dreads for a day during E3, including at Microsoft's pre-show press conference. If he was right, then he was going to get to shave my dreads off on stage at E3.
Because people really care that that's the case. All right, we will be back after a short break. Returning to you from the live center of Gaming Alexandria. Yes, it's living, it's fleshy, it's pulsing. We try not to look at it too much. Chapter 10, Rise to the Heavens, which you should never leave luck to, of course.
Our view of the Game Boy experience is that it's a great babysitting tool, something young kids do on airplanes. The DS, the DS represents a critical moment for Nintendo's success over the next 2 years. If it succeeds, we rise to the heavens. If it fails, we sink into hell.
Okay. Yamauchi, you dramatic. And he's only quoting Yamauchi, but he's not quoting Iwata, for actual strategic decision making at this point, which is weird. Late starters! Launching the nebulously named DS? What? I think they were pretty clear about what the name was about. In Japan, on December 2nd, 2004, the DS was released in Australia. Why do we need to know this?
Those are probably all the release dates that were on the Wikipedia page.
Nintendo had a 10-day head start on Sony. PSP launched on December 12th. By the end of the year, Nintendo sold 1.1 million DSs in Japan. Sony sold 300,000 PSPs. That initial month, outsold PSP nearly 3-1. That additional 800,000 units might have been inconsequential, except that Nintendo sold another 2.9 million DSs into the Japanese market the following year, while Sony sold 1.9 million PSPs. After the first year, Nintendo had sold a cumulative 4 million DSs compared to Sony's 2.2 million PSPs. That was the odd year. That was the odd year. The year PSP came as close as it would ever come to closing the gap. Jacob.
The sentiment around Japan at the launch of PSP and Nintendo DS was mostly about how incredible Sony technology was, and how uninspired and toy-like Nintendo's latest handheld was. I distinctly remember the first few days of holding a PSP. It felt like I was holding an artifact from the future in my hands. Nothing quite encapsulated the difference between PSP and Nintendo DS in the early days, more than winning Ridge Racer side by side on both platforms. The PSP handled its sleek PS2 level graphics without breaking a sweat. Meanwhile, the DS felt like it was about to keel over. There's a famous photo of some expats living in Japan on an online community about how inferior Nintendo DS was to PSP. At the time, Nintendo felt like an absolute joke. Boy, wrong!
Famous photo. What? I'm confused. Famous photo? All right. Because he's like talking about what they said online, so it's like a screenshot. Is that what you mean to say? Or
Yeah, so, I mean, there's a ... there, which means that
Yes.
you can't cut out part of the quote, and it's probably an important part of the quote to understand that context. But that space was needed for telling us when the DS was released in Australia, Ethan.
Of course. When it came to releasing must-have system-selling games, Nintendo struck first. In April 2005, Nintendo released Nintendogs, a Tamagotchi-like game which players raised puppies, training them as they matured into adult dogs. Nintendo has he even talked about Tamagotchi? I can't even remember. Nintendogs played to all of the DS's quirky strengths. Players could communicate with their virtual canines by speaking into the mic and play with them via the touchscreen and stylus. They could view their pets on one screen while scrolling through food, toys, and communications on the other. Using wireless networking, players could create playdates with other Nintendog owners. Nintendogs was pure Nintendo, nerdy, clean, technologically enabled rather than technology dependent, and a money-making masterpiece. Since tastes in dogs vary, Nintendo released 3 different versions of the pet raising simulation: Chihuahua and Friends, Miniature Dachshund and Friends, and Shiba Inu and Friends. The most popular, of course. Collectors by nature, many Nintendo fans bought all 3 versions just as frequently as they purchased both versions of Pokemon games. No! This is complete misalignment. It reached people who had never played games like this before. It was not about Nintendo diehards. Like, I mean, Nintendogs was popular, but like, people were not going out and buying all 3 versions of Nintendogs because they like Pokemon. Like,
Maybe you weren't.
tell us your Nintendog story, Shane.
I think a dog ate my Nintendo cart homework. I think that's what I should be saying.
There we go.
I think the DS is going to the dogs. Well, it's better than cats. What's that? At least with dogs, I can throw them a bone.
You're speaking too loud and you're just getting cut off, so be careful with that. Nintendogs was released in Japan on April 21st, 2005, driving DS sales up 400% over the prior week. Jumpman.
It's Nintendogs causing the Japanese game world to sit up and take notice. It received a rare perfect score in Famitsu, which has really updated its name, by the way. I mean, the Famicom's not been a thing for years. And it's been overwhelmingly voted Best in Show by Japanese gamers. It remains the top-selling game franchise in Japan, with more than 400,000 copies having sold in less than a month's time.
That's all it takes to be the best-selling game franchise.
Yeah, because screw trendy games or anything, you know, the initial sales are always what determines if it's... I've lost my words.
We get it.
And as always is the case, hit software, not that his software, I don't know what his software is, but hit software sells hardware, and this case is no different. The launch of Nintendogs was responsible for making Nintendo DS the best-selling game system in Japan. In fact, selling more than 3 times the rate of PSP.
Ooh. Taken from Reggie Fils-Aimé's 2005 E3 presentation. Now you're attributing stuff from that you pull from random places? Because, like, there was the entire presentation earlier, and he didn't cite that at all.
Nope.
Well, he is a journalist.
Yeah, he's always been shitty at citations. In May, Nintendo Company Limited, now we're getting very specific, released Brain Age, a series of quizzes, puzzles, and mini-games designed to invigorate users' brains. These weren't typical party games found in Mario Party or Crash Bash. Crash Bash? What?
Okay. I appreciate the nod, but what?
These games involved activity like math and pattern recognition, along with software for tracking users' progress. Brain Age was meant to stimulate people's brains, but Nintendo managed to include a dose of nerdiness and fun. He keeps using this word nerdiness. Not sure. I do not think it means what you think it means. It received fairly average marks from reviewers, but that wasn't the point. Sorry. Where was it? It was meant as a cerebral workout, a virtual space people entered with the hope of warding off dementia in the future. Because it's based on a very specific, it's based on a book series. Yeah. Nintendo sold well over 2 million copies of Brain Age in Japan and over 19 million copies worldwide. Bring back the French Miyamoto, Alex.
My parents are both over the age of 75. Through all my years of making video games, I've showed them many games they've never once said, I want that game. With these brain exercise games, they have both said, yes, I want that game. Oh.
And then at the end of that sentence, they said,
What the fuck?
That is pronounced artiste. I am an artiste. At Nintendo. Oui, oui.
Sorry, that I'll translate from French. That's a sandwich artist in North America.
I'm pretty sure he hasn't been that since the 70s.
Yeah.
I mean, he's done industrial design, which is a type of art, but And then, in November 2005, Nintendo Japan, you said Nintendo Company Limited, and now you're saying Nintendo Japan. What the hell are you doing? Released Animal Crossing Wild World, a handheld version of an iconic GameCube title. I mean, it was
Nintendo
N64.
64.
Yeah.
That's right.
The Animal Crossing games were Nintendo's family-friendly answer to Second Life.
They were
What? Sorry, no. The Animal Crossing game, I gotta read that. The Animal Crossing games were Nintendo's family-friendly answer to Second Life? Who? Where? What world? Did he read that off of 4chan?
A highly sanitized, open-ended world in which players move into town populated by talking animals. Yes, so sanitized.
So Second Life.
The Electronic Arts The Sims games. Now that's a better comparison, but even the first Animal Crossing came out before the first Sims. Animal Crossing games entertain players by having them do virtual versions of mundane tasks. Players could collect, trade, and sell items. They could buy furniture and decorate their houses. They could build houses, and thanks to DS's Wi-Fi, meet up with other players. According to IGN, Nintendo sold 23.9 million copies of Nintendogs worldwide, 19 million copies of Brain Age, and 11.7 million copies of Animal Crossing Wild World. And, why didn't you just put that in the text?
Thank you, IGN and Stephen Elkins.
Jacob returning with Ryan Payton.
I noticed the tide turning for Nintendo DS upon the release of Nintendogs and Animal Crossing. A tidal wave was forming. Nintendo has an eternal mantra about the name of the game is the game, meaning great software sells hardware. They really embraced that with the DS. It was fascinating to watch firsthand PSP losing the win in a sale to Nintendo's underpowered hardware.
That was Peter Main's quote. That was a marketing thing in America. It wasn't Nintendo's internal mantra about game design.
And I couldn't get enough of it either.
Yes, Al Nilsson, big fan. In March 2006, DS Lite was released. Why is this here?
Okay, and also it's the footnotes in the wrong place again.
Yes. He loves doing mid-sentence footnotes for no reason. I have mid-sentence footnotes in mine, but for reasons. It's highlighting a specific thing. Nintendo released DS Lite, a smaller, more ergonomic version of DS with brighter screens. Demand for the handheld reached a new high. Then Nintendo released Pokemon Diamond and Pokemon Pearl in September. Okay, yeah, okay, whatever.
Pokemon, Nintendo did release Pokemon Diamond and Pokemon Pearl, and they had to pay the Prince Estate so much money. It was really crazy.
Nintendo sold 8.5 million DSs in Japan in 2006. No other hardware, handheld, or console cleared 2 million units that year. PSP was the second highest selling software in Japan in 2006, with 1.9 million systems sold. As long as we focus on the high teen age group, I understand that PSP has more appeal than DS, but I believe the situation will change when people see the lineup of DS software. 4 of the top 5 games in Japan in 2006 were DS exclusives. Pokemon Diamond Pearl, 4.3 million copies sold. New Super Mario Bros. DS, 3.8 million copies sold. Brain Age 2, 3.75 million copies sold. And Animal Crossing, 2.5 million copies sold. The 5th highest selling game in Japan was Final Fantasy XII for the PlayStation 2, 2.3 million copies. Shane, read us a report.
In 2006, Japanese video game industry sales surged to levels not seen for a decade, driven by strong demand for portables. According to Famitsu, that's right, they're still calling themselves that, total video game retail sales hit 625 billion yen. It's N in Japanese, not yen. About 5.3 billion. It doesn't accredit this. I'm going to imagine that's U.S. currency. Great writing there. Great writing. Up 38% year over year. Why'd you put that in? With HW hardware, value up to 60. He's really using a lot of abbreviations here. Value up to 60% to 262 billion yen. And SW software up to 25. Just say software. You know what I mean? You don't. Up 25% to 364 billion yen. 3.1 billion mystery dollarinis.
I mean, this is a U.S. report, so this is from the people tracking the industry. So they know they abbreviate stuff. So Kent was actually throwing us a bone here to help us understand.
Just say year over year hardware and software, and then just these
are guys. They're all obsessed with P&Ls and stuff. They love their acronyms.
You just made up those words.
By 2007, the Japanese market seemed nearly DS exclusive, but a new path to success was about to open for PlayStation Portable. Despite Nintendo's 3-year winning streak, the DS's lead in Japan wasn't yet unassailable. Given the right game, PSP could narrow the gap. Amazingly, it wasn't an all-new game that gave PSP the chance to catch up. It was a 2-year-old game, originally released on the PlayStation 2, that hadn't sold especially well on that console. That game was Monster Hunter. When Capcom first released Monster Hunter in Japan on March 1st, 2004, it was that rare PS2 game players could take online. An action RPG which players hunted unruly beasts of all sizes and descriptions. It was repetitive and hard as a single-player game, but when players met online and hunted in packs, it became a social activity. Famitsu gave the original Monster Hunter a score of 32 out of 40, and it came in 37th on the Japan's top 50 games list. What games list are you talking about? Is it from Famitsu? This is
probably the games list, Ethan.
Capcom sold 288,000 copies, which is good but not incredible.
Monster Hunter debuted on PS2 and actually had online multiplayer, which is extremely rare for PS2 at the time. The game was a moderate hit in Japan. Then, someone at Capcom had the absolutely brilliant idea to reimagine the game for PSP by ditching its online features for local multiplayer, focusing on local co-op so players can grind out hundreds of hours of monster hunting together on PSP was the killer app Sony's platform desperately needed. The PSP versions of Monster Hunter elevated the franchise to the level of cultural phenomenon.
I mean, I don't think it was... It started with... I don't think with the PSP version. It took some time. But,
yeah.
I was thinking, exactly why Monster Hunter... Because I saw some stuff recently, and it was like... Yeah, how did that become one of Capcom's major franchises? So this is actually decent insight, but
I don't know. By the time that I was first year college, the version that was on the Wii U or whatever was the main game that they played in the dorm game room. So I don't know either.
On December 21st, 2005, Capcom released Monster Hunter Portable in Japan, selling approximately 234,000 units by year's end and another 435,000 units the following year. Monster Hunter Freedom, titled Monster Hunter Portable in Japan, was a PS... What? I'm confused. What? So you're just saying that this is the American release now? Is that what you're saying? Was the PSP hit Sony desperately needed to establish PlayStation Portable in Japan? Monster Hunter.
That was weird.
What?
Why did he write it that way?
What?
Yeah, that's
Monster Hunter Freedom, titled Monster Hunter Portable in Japan, was a PSP as Sony does for the
Okay.
He's kind of
Thank you.
bouncing
Uh,
between.
Yeah, the editors were they were asleep and drunk and
Yeah, that's wrong. Monster Hunter Freedom is an enhanced port of Monster Hunter G, which was
Oh.
a PlayStation 2 game in Japan. It had nothing to do with the PSP. Freedom
Oh
is-
wow, Kent. There's one for you.
Is this what I miss when I'm listening to a podcast for 2 hours and making little audio corrections?
Yeah. By the end of August 2007, sales topped 4 million units worldwide with an astounding attach rate, one of 5 Japanese PSP owners purchasing a copy of the game. Once again,
Yep. Yeah. Capcom did something that Nintendo DS also tapped into in Japan, which is underreported in my opinion. Ex-CEO of Square Enix, Yoshiwada, taught me that in Japan, there is a culture of not going home. Their homes are small. Many Japanese only have one TV, and it's shared with their spouses and children. This is why salarymen are out with their buddies till late.
And also enormous social pressure and, all that.
And plenty of other stuff. This is a big reason why Monster Hunter was the perfect game for PSP. This culture of not going home appealed to junior high school kids who were big consumers of PSP.
Who are hanging out with their buddies in bars, apparently, because the salary men in this story are somehow 11 years old.
Man, I remember those times. The hardware was at a price point they could afford and was perfect for their lifestyles.
All those times
Kids-
those boys took you out for juice and you had to go.
Kids wanted their own screen in their bedroom, not in the living room with their family. Remember, these kids grew up on Pokemon, so this more mature Monster Hunter series was absolutely perfectly designed for them to gather at McDonald's with their buddies and grind out hundreds of hours together on their PSPs.
Two
That
adverbs just directly besides each other. Disgraceful.
I'm sorry. I like Ryan Payton quite a bit. Gather at McDonald's with their buddies. What did anyone in the history of ever yo, where you going, Steve? I'm going to McDonald's. No one does that. No one's ever said that.
There was a
Nobody
McDonald's
hangs
down the hill from my high school, but no one hung out with me, so that still holds.
People hung out at the McDonald's near my high school. I'm sorry.
Was that
That was a
thing?
thing. That was
Oh
a
my
thing.
God.
That's a thing in America.
Well,
There's 2 people that hang out at McDonald's. Children and people and seniors who are approximately 187 years old.
Yeah,
Man,
there
on
are plenty
average.
of corners in this great country of ours where that's basically the only 2 places for 2 miles.
Correct. Exactly. That's exactly why.
That and the
Oh,
Denny's.
that is so crazy to me. Honestly,
Yeah.
when a group of kids get together around here, it's just I'm thinking
Like,
Arby's.
sure, there might be a local, locally run burger joint or something.
Perhaps Arby's
but
in Canada is better than Arby's in the United States. Arby's in Canada, when I've had it, has been decent. Arby's in the United States has been sickening. So I don't know how to.
No, that sounds about right.
Just one vote for hanging out at the McDonald's here. It was
There you go.
literally next to my high school.
Yeah. Boosted in
It was.
part by the Monster Hunter portable craze, PSP sales nearly doubled over the next 2 years in Japan, jumping from 1.9 million units in 2006 to 3 million in 2007 and 3.5 million in 2008. Yes, such a huge boost. Despite a spike in sales from the release of Monster Hunter Portable 2nd G, which sold nearly 1.5 million copies in Japan in 2007, coming in second only to Wii Sports on the Japanese top 50, PSP continued falling further and further behind. In 2008, PSP finally had the top-selling game in Japan, Monster Hunter Portable 2nd G, which sold almost 2.5 million units. Every time Sony moved ahead with a Monster Hunter, Nintendo countered with a Pokemon! Monster Hunter Portable 2nd G may have been the best-selling game of the year, but it was also the only PSP game in the top 10. Pokemon Platinum came in second with 2,187,000 copies sold. In fact, 4 of the best top-selling titles were DS exclusives. 23 of the top 50 titles in Japan in 2008 were DS games that year. Even though he had retired, Hiroshi Yamauchi still cast a shadow across the video game industry after the GameCube disaster. Sony had looked unbeatable. In this case, Yamauchi had been right all along. It wasn't processing power that recaptured the Japanese market. It was unorthodox games played on unconventional hardware selling to untraditional audiences. Untraditional, I don't think that's the word.
Non-traditional.
Yes. As Yamauchi had predicted, Nintendo DS expanded the market. Where did he predict this? You didn't say that anywhere earlier.
He's about to right now. If we can increase the scope of the industry, we can re-energize the global market and lift Japan out of depression. There, he just did it. Just did it.
He had the thing earlier of like, we either go into heaven or we sink into hell, but that was about it.
Yeah, I'm not sure when this is exact, because he said predict, and I feel like this quote was after things happened, so like that doesn't really count. But anyways, when I think about how
it was bad, it was very bad. It was all rigged. The sales of the PlayStation 2, the numbers totally rigged. Then we came out with Nintendo DS. Now video games are back. We're on top of the world again.
Well,
he was predicting in reverse.
There we go. Just like the Book of Revelation,
That's like that one.
Look at the industry now. Was he wrong?
Nintendo's ethos continues to be proven more right than wrong. So, when I think about how these systems are being used and played by Japanese people, I should say that PSPA, is seen as a way to play PlayStation 2 games outdoors. This is appreciated by customers because of its unprecedented level of interactive entertainment ability, such as dual screen, touchscreen, and microphone. From what I hear in Japan, a large number of female users are purchasing Nintendo DS. Those who used to play before and quit are now starting to play Nintendo DS. There are more of the adult audience, people in their 30s. They tell us that they quit playing, but when they saw Nintendo DS, they came back. All right, Shane, take our buddy Chris Kohler.
Never heard him speak before. You think I would have, so let me try that. Suddenly, the Japanese game designer is doing a much better job of it, expanding the market to female audiences these days with the Nintendo Dog Switch. I don't know what the DS means. Actually, just today, the latest Japanese sales chart was released, and the country's best-selling game right now is a Nintendo DS game called Love and Berry. What? Love and Berry? That's based on a franchise popular with preteen girls. They sold nearly 500,000 copies of this game just this week. Love and Berry? Never heard of that. Is that a thing?
I think
Love and Berry.
What I believe that is sort of the DS collection of Love and Berry arcade games. Love and Berry is a collectible card game and a dress-up game that was a Sega thing in arcades for girls.
Yes.
Okay. And that to the games with huge, add that to the games with huge penetration into the girl gamer market like Nintendogs. Don't add penetration, talking about women.
Say, don't do
Animal Crossing and Brain Age, and it's clear that Japan is getting to the point where there's no longer going to be a gender divide in video games within a few years.
Chris Kohler.
Yay, we cured the gender divide in video games. Good job, gamers.
Chris Kohler, co-author of Power Up, How Japanese Video Games Gave the World an Extra Life, former features editor, Kotaku, and lots of other things.
Gamergate began 1 week later.
Outside Japan, Newsweek's Nagai Kroll bet his dreadlocks that PSP sales would follow the same trajectory as PlayStation 2 sales. That is, 10 million units sold in the next 12 months. Japan wasn't helping, but in the history of video games, winning in Japan didn't necessarily guarantee worldwide success, and losing in Japan didn't necessarily translate into international failure. Despite huge success in the United States and Europe, Sega's Genesis Mega Drive never caught on in Japan. It lagged behind the Famicom and PC Engine. It's only in the United States, the NC TurboGrafx. You have, and it's TurboGrafx 16, and we already did this.
Yes.
He already
Yes.
talked. You already had a footnote about this. It's early in its early years and was forgotten in the wake of the Super Famicom. Forgotten? Wait, Genesis lag behind. Okay, when he's talking about in Japan. Okay.
Yeah.
Notably successful in Japan, TurboGrafx, not TurboGrafx in Japan, barely made a
Well,
dent.
and also he relegated TurboGrafx to a footnote. So if you're just reading this paragraph without reading footnotes, the switch to TurboGrafx from PC Engine comes out of nowhere.
Yes. TurboGrafx barely made a dent in North America and Europe. By 2007, Microsoft had sold 14.5 million Xbox units in the United States and 6 million in Europe. In Japan, Xbox barely cleared 500,000 units. Nintendo of America launched DS on November 21st, 2004, which we've already said. Sony Computer Entertainment America didn't launch PSP until March 24th the following year. During the 4-month head start, Nintendo sold more than 1 million DSs, going out to market in a mostly lackluster list of games. I mean, it seems like he believes what Hayao Nakayama believed, that if you're first on the market, you win automatically.
That works so well for the 3DO in some ways.
By the time PlayStation Portable arrived in North America, Sony had assembled a formidable library that included new versions of legacy games from its consoles, such as Ape Escape, On the Loose, Twisted Metal, Head On, and Wipeout Pure. Does anyone care about Wipeout past the first game? Did anyone really care?
I actually
There's a
do
cult
like that.
following.
I think I mean, I never played him, but I think the second game as well.
The Wipeout collection they released of the PSP games on the PlayStation 3 is quite nice. Or PS4? But anyway, they're good. I like them. They're fun. They're
Yeah,
fast.
there's a cult following for Wipeout. It's not major. Like, it was major obviously in the PS1 generation, but like it's people like it.
You know, you can play those Wipeout games with a PlayStation VR headset. Never puked so much in my life.
So I'll say what y'all want. Wipeout is entirely an ABC show, and I will hear nothing else of it.
Most of the games that migrated from PS2 to PSP had gameplay nearly identical to that of their console progenitors, but not all of them. Metal Gear Solid Acid may have looked like Metal Gear Solid games, but it didn't play like them. It was a card-based RPG. Then there was the ubiquitous games, the ones that appeared on every conceivable console, the Sonic franchise, Madden NFL games, and the Tomb Raider series. I mean, Tomb Raider wasn't really appearing on Nintendo consoles at the time.
No, I would not say it was.
They were front and center when Nokia announced N-Gage, and they quickly found their way into DS and PSP as well. It's not like they're the same games. I think there is like one game that they rejiggered from that, but I don't remember. It's been a long time. Somewhere along the line, having a Need for Speed, a Rayman, and the WWE game at launch had become
There
a
were Tomb Raider
requisite.
games on the DS. The Legend Anniversary, the Tomb Raider Legend got a port apparently.
Yeah, but I
And,
was saying in GameCube, really. But
Yeah.
I was saying.
I think they're
An
are they-
Underworld somehow. Underworld on the DS was barely working on its big boy versions. I'm wondering how that played.
I think the DS versions of the games are more like side scrollers, or they're straight lines.
Yeah, usually.
Like there's something different about them. Yeah.
Exclusive titles, especially first-party exclusives, define systems. Nintendo's exclusives including Nintendogs, Animal Crossing, Pokemon, New Super Mario Bros., and Mario Kart. These games appealed to hardcore Nintendo fans more than hardcore gamers, whatever that means. Satoru Iwata may have wanted to avoid turning the DS into a portable system for playing console games, but he allowed Activision to publish 5 Call of Duty games for it. I mean, they're putting whatever they can on it. Like, it's just that when Nintendo's focus is not about that, because he knows that those games don't work as well. In typical Nintendo fashion, they were upbeat, family-friendly, and safe. In Japan, DS took an early lead and never looked back. That wasn't the case in North America. PSP outsold DS by 1 million units in the United States in 2005. Nintendo sold 2.6 million DSs. Sony sold 3.6 million PSPs. As PSP took hold, Nintendo of America had to reconsider its marketing strategies. Attempts to broaden the GameCube's appeal with M-rated games like Eternal Darkness and Resident Evil backfired. What? How? think they sold well.
Resident Evil didn't backfire. What?
But that didn't stop.
That comes from a theory about he's basically talking about the concept of Resident Evil 4 not selling as much on the GameCube as it did on the PS2, and how that is some gigantic thing. That is a very
No, well, I think that when he introduced these games, it was when he was talking about Grand Theft Auto. So he was like, the violence attention has been put on games, but like I don't think either of those games had any controversy around them.
No, Resident Evil, everybody knows what Resident Evil is, and everybody knows what Eternal Darkness is. They're survival horror games. We kind of expect them to be gory. You're not going to go in and, again, and they're campy horror anyway, so, I don't think there was much, I don't recall any controversies around Eternal Darkness, but I could be wrong there. The only PS2 GameCube era big controversy horror game was Ring of Rose. Because of the...
But that didn't stop Nintendo from employing a similar strategy with DS. FTB, you want to take Micah?
Sure. Not too long after the PSP announcement, we got a call from Nintendo. They were curious if we would be interested in developing a version of Gauntlet, the Midway arcade classic for the DS. We said that sounds great.
Arcade classic.
We said that sounds great, so they sent out their producers. Terasaki-san, Keisuke Terasaki, a veteran producer project manager who worked on dozens of games, including 2 Luigi's Mansion titles and 2 Super Smash Bros. Games, and Mr. Ando, Corey Ando, a coordinator producer whose credits included several Pokemon titles. You'll have to excuse me there, I was possessed momentarily. They will both come out and we retrofitted the whole office to have every version of Gauntlet available, even versions of a pre-Gauntlet game called Dandy.
Oh, you don't know Dandy?
Yeah. A pre-Gauntlet game. The pre-Gauntlet
the pre-Gauntlet game, yes. We played Gauntlet all day with these guys who came out from Japan. They told us that when they went to college together, they used to play Gauntlet all the time. They also told us that the strategy was that they were trying to go out and get third-party IP for action games to compete with the PSP because they felt that Sony had a real good grasp of action/arcade games that were going to be on the PSP. Of course they would. It's going to be on the PSP. That's a very weird wording. And they felt that they probably weren't really competitive. They started greenlighting a whole bunch of these external games and finding developers to produce them.
But U.S. PlayStation Portable sales dropped by 16% in 2006 from 3.6 million to an even 3 million. DS sales, on the other hand, spiked 105% with releases of Mario Kart DS, Nintendogs, and Brain Age. Yeah, Dandy Dungeon from the Atari Program Exchange, which was the direct inspiration for Gauntlet.
Yep, yeah, I remember now.
Feeling more confident, Reggie Fils-Aimé returned to his initial marketing plans. That's Mike again.
Okay, sorry. Working in tandem with Nintendo Japan and Midway, we created this crazy version of Gauntlet. It was an all-new version, like a true sequel. We got it all the way to completion. By the time we were done, and there were several other games, they all got cancelled because DS started to overtake the PSP in sales. Nintendo felt that they didn't need these files anymore. What was really cool, this is what's so awesome about Nintendo, they didn't want the game not to come out on the platform, so they helped us to shop it to other publishers. We went to Eidos and all these different companies, and Eidos eventually picked it up. It went out to review. We got 80s to 90s on our reviews and all this great stuff, and then Eidos said that they didn't want to publish any more DS games.
Okay, why? Are we going to learn anything about Eidos in this? Okay, that's just a weird detail.
Yeah, that's an odd detail. Was that Gauntlet Legends? Which one was that?
Hi, my name is Steve. I'm the CEO of Eidos. I like making money.
Oh, no, Gauntlet Dark Legacy. Perhaps. No, looking it up, it's just canceled version, just characterized as Gauntlet. And then they mention
From the start, Sony published a wide array of first-party PSP titles ranging from an M-rated SOCOM U.S. Navy SEALs game to an E10-rated action game, adventure game called The Beetle.
This is amazing. You know what happened to this Gauntlet game in actuality? The engine was repurposed for the game G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra.
Okay. And specifically medieval Resurrection.
Yeah, it got killed. It got thrill killed. It became like thrill killed became Wu-Tang. Anyway.
One of the most interesting early experiments on the PSP was a game called Infected, in which players tried to save New York City from a zombie-creating virus. The hero of the game was a cop who was immune to the virus. In a nod to I Am Legend, saving the day involved finding a scientist who would use the policeman's blood to create the serum. What set Infected apart from previous games was a multiplayer mode that allowed players to infect each other's games with their own personal viruses, then track the virus's progress using online tools that monitored their spread across the PSP community. So it's like
you were sending viruses over the internet then.
So Infectinator, basically.
Or Pandemic. The biggest
Wonderful
news...
games.
The biggest news on PSP, however, was the October 5th, 2005 release of Grand Theft Auto Liberty City Stories. Coming on the heels of GTA San Andreas for the PS2, Liberty City Stories, you have to be specific about this, because the original, or the GTA 3 is kind of Liberty City, benefited from the GTA mania that had overtaken the gaming world in general. If there was a new Grand Theft Auto on some platform, a certain portion of the game-playing population would adopt the platform specifically to play it. That's a citation needed right there, because I don't think that that's at all proven. Americans brought approximately...
I don't think anybody bought a DSP DS specifically to play Grand Theft Auto Chinatown Wars, but
approximately 717,000 copies of Liberty City for the PSP in 3 short months. Rockstar sold an astounding 1.2 million copies worldwide by the end of the year. Astounding? Really?
Astounding!
Astounding for the platform, I suppose.
Rockstar went on to sell more than 8 million copies of GTA Liberty City Stories worldwide. No other PSP games came close. The next highest selling game was a Grand Theft Auto as well, GTA Vice City Stories, which sold more than 5 million copies. Kaz Hirai's prediction that PSP would appeal to an older audience proved prophetic. Or he just read the numbers. PSP had a much stronger appeal among adult customers. Where Sony went wrong was in its projections about the size of the market.
Wait, hold on. What did you just say? Rockstar went on to sell more than 8 million copies of GTA Liberty City Stories worldwide. No other PSP game close. The next highest selling game was Grand Theft Auto as well. GTA Vice City Stories, which sold more than 5 million copies?
Yeah.
Vice City. Oh, geez. Because he got Liberty City wrong at the top. I was all confused. Okay, my bad. I'm good.
Yeah, there too. They were also released to get re-released for the PS2 in like a compilation later, towards the end of the PS2's life.
Sony arrived late to the party in Europe. Nintendo relaunched a DS on March 11th, 2004. 2004? No, 2005, I guess you mean? Oh my god. Copy editors! Where are you? Sony launched PSP on September 1st, having had the market all to itself for nearly 5 months. Nintendo sold 3.1 million DSs in Europe in 2005. Sony sold 2.2 million PSPs in 4 months. Nintendo's lead looked tenuous at best. When it came to software sales, PSP outperformed DS in Europe in 2004. The first-year tie ratio for DS was 1.2 games per system. PSP buyers purchased 2.7 games per system, proving Hirai's E3 predictions about 18 to 34-year-old men purchasing more games and having more disposable income. I'm not sure that's borne out in the future, but Sony's target market had more disposable income and bought more games, but they weren't buying hardware. The end of 2005, Nintendo sold 12 million DSs worldwide, while PSP sales topped out around 8.5 million. In 2006, Nintendo had pulled ahead in every major market. DS outsold PSP 4-1 in Japan in 2006. In the United States and Europe, the ratio was closer to 2-1. Nintendo sold 19.9 million DSs and Sony's 8.1 PSPs worldwide. Adding in previous sales, the ratio was nearly a perfect 2-1 split, with 32.3 million people owning a DS hardware and 16.7 million owning PSPs. And I'm trying to get through this as fast as possible because it's just like, it's mind-numbing, just numbers and not telling any kind of story. Sony went on to sell 154 million DSs. The only video game system to outsell it was the PlayStation 2, with 155 million units sold. No, 160.
It did sell 160, but at the time this was written, obviously.
Sony stopped releasing PSP sales figures in 2012. That final report showed 76.4 million PSPs sold in worldwide, meaning Sony has shipped that many units. Okay. Fortunately for Nagai Kroll, he didn't bet Allard that PSP would outsell DS. He simply bet it would sell at the same trajectory as PS2. PS2 launched in Japan on March 4th, 2000, and then went worldwide that fall. By April 2001, Sony had shipped 10 million units worldwide. Battered and bruised by DS sales, Sony still managed to sell 10 million PSPs by December 12th, 2005. I mean,
of course,
that's not what trajectory means.
Yeah, of course, the PS2 was beset by shortages that entire time. I don't think the PSP was. In other words, the PS2 could have sold more in that same time period.
But that's not what trajectory means.
Exactly. Exactly.
And it's not like the PSP did poorly. Like, this is a lot of millions of units of sales. This is a success story for Sony. The first handheld game system they make is the PSP, and it sells better than Game Gear. Like, you couldn't ask for better numbers. Unless you're making a Nintendo DS, and in which case you got better numbers. But still.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, PSP was good. Will this book talk about Vita? I don't know. I don't know if we're getting there. Allard goes AWOL.
History will show that I was right. In its first 12 months on the market, they did about 10 million units, which was about roughly what PlayStation 2 did, and then Jay went completely AWOL.
Taunting Microsoft's Jay Allard into making a wager was one thing. Collecting on it turned out to be quite a different proposition. As E3 2006 approached, Sony released a new shipment numbers showing PSP had indeed limped over the 10 million mark. Wanting to collect on his bet, Kroll placed several calls to Microsoft. Allard never responded.
He refused to honor the bet, and I was like, wow, this is... I didn't expect that. About a year went by, and, I was inquiring people through people Jay knew in common. Complete radio silence. There was no real expectation that he was going to wear the dreads wig for all of E3, including the press conference. People at Microsoft were urging him. They were saying, look, you've got to find some way to honor the bet.
The cabal at Microsoft was like, this random thing you said with a journalist, you need to honor it. Our honor is on the line.
This story is the most historically important story ever recorded and written down in video game. I want everyone to know this. It is the video game story of all time.
So was Kent just mad because he was running around with like a barber's razor trying to cut Kroll's hair? Like, what is the relevance of this?
Yeah, he loves telling little stories about his journo buddies and the scoops they could have gotten and all that kind of stuff. A great number of things had changed since Kroll...
Yeah, but what is he implying here? Is Kroll's hair like some kind of Samson-like object that caused problems for Sony?
Well, Kroll won, so Allard's supposed to wear dreads, but he has a shaved head, so... A great number of things have changed since Kroll and Allard made their bet in May 2004. First and foremost, Allard no longer worked on the Xbox team. Having taken on Sony at the video game market, Microsoft was about to go head-to-head with Apple in the MP3 space. As the CXO and CTO of consumer products of Microsoft, Allard was the obvious pick to spearhead Zune, Microsoft's answer to the iPod.
Yeah, if that was the answer, what was the question?
Hey everyone, if you need a music player and you need it to start with the letter Z, then you can come on down to Microsoft. We've got you good. You can share music with people for like a minute, but it works. It's great. It's fantastic. We love the Zune. Everyone here loves Zune. Don't worry. It'll play video games maybe in the future. We're really working on that. Buy a Zune. Please God, buy a Zune. I need you to buy a Zune.
Please.
Allard didn't speak at Microsoft's pre-show press conference in that E3 2006. The Xbox 360 launching later that year, the only company executives who appeared on stage were newly appointed Xbox chief
The
Xbox
Xbox 360
officer.
launched in 2005.
Yes, were the newly appointed chief Xbox officer Peter Moore and Microsoft chairman and chief software architect Bill Gates. Chief software architect? What the fuck? During Bill Gates' presentation, Scott Hansen, director of platform strategy, appeared on stage to do a tech demo. Okay.
Oh, okay. Thanks
Third
for
wheel,
that
I
added
suppose.
little nugget there.
Okay.
That's,
It wasn't just two people. It wasn't just two people.
yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, there were 3 people on stage. Read the footnote.
Kroll wasn't impressed, having placed his dreadlocks on the line. He wasn't in a forgiving mood.
Because he was totally going to shave them if he lost the bet.
Maybe. And he had a very bully pulpit. He wrote Newsweek's Games blog.
He did some blog posts where he stepped up to pressure. It was kind of tongue-in-cheek. I interviewed some people who were gambling experts and psychologists on what might cause someone to renege on a bet and this kind of thing. Then, one day out of the blue, Jay posts a picture of himself holding a PlayStation Portable while wearing a dreadlock wig.
Which
You can
I
probably
will...
find it right now.
Yeah, I will post it in voice chat. There you go. Beautiful.
Oh,
He did
I
it.
remember seeing that picture. I didn't realize that was Jay.
Yeah, no.
Wow.
Nobody understood the
wonderful.
context behind any of this. It's just an inside joke. It was a case of better late than never. On May 8th, 2007, nearly 3 years after he initially proposed the bet, Allard posted a picture of himself sporting a shoulder-length dreadlocks and holding a PSP with the words, "Nagai had it right," on his Microsoft bio page.
The larger type says the guy was right or something like that, but there was some smaller type under it. With the resolution of the photo, I don't know what the smaller text says. I'm assuming it was a shot at me of some kind, but anyway, that was the nature of the bet.
Yeah, if somebody can figure that
Then
out...
zoom and enhance. Zoom and enhance.
I can definitely tell that the last word says PSP. That's about it. Nothing
when
else.
Bill Gates was asked for comment to clarify the scenario, he couldn't because he was too busy on some faraway island.
We did have illusions when he showed up the first time. So, all right, that will be the end of the reading for tonight. What have we learned, everybody?
Maybe it's better to not come in at the last minute and not have it on my dreams.
Maybe don't bet your hair on video game stuff, I guess would be the thing.
Maybe I should have done a different voice for him. Instead of doing the Clifford Stoll, I could have done the GG from Endless Ocean Blue World.
Yes, we have learned the extremely important story of the time Nagai Kroll bet his dreadlocks against Jay Allard because...
Good morning, Islanders. Welcome and smell the GG.
that probably is a little... This is probably a little much.
It would be.
Yeah, it was a long litany of sales figures, which, you know, is kind of useful, but at the same time, it's just a list.
And Wikipedia has those because that's where Kent got them from.
Yeah. What he gauges as important is so strange.
Because, obviously you can't avoid saying some stuff that's on Wikipedia, especially in a broad history. But, when I do my podcast, I'm always like, when I pick a topic, it's like, I want to make sure I can say more about that topic than Wikipedia does. And I'm not sure for most of these things, other than his little anecdotes about his personal experiences, that he says more about anything than Wikipedia does.
And he just misses vast swaths of information he could be drawing from because he has this terrible aversion to citing other resources that he did not gather himself. Can't find an interview that says something very specific about a topic. You have to get, like, all of his citations to interviews are from mainstream publications, not gaming publications, not individual interviews. It has to be from something like a Newsweek or, a couple IGN, but, like, IGN is kind of like the normie mainstream version of game journalism. So it's like he is avoiding at all costs getting into depth, getting in deep on anything.
But at least he's getting his years right.
Nope. Oh man, that's just baffling. Because I remember he had the thing. Let's find the bit where he does it with Iwata, because that was insanely embarrassing. I don't know. Editors are weak in this sense. So he says at which, right around here somewhere. He has the date on here. Yeah, so the date of this press conference is significant. The timing of this press then he repeats it in the footnote. In following the heels of Hiroshi Yamauchi's planned announcement that he stepped down to president of Nintendo. This is wrong. This is not the date. So he just completely got that wrong. And then there's another point in which he has the E3 that he's talking about completely wrong. So everything just becomes entirely unstuck in time. So, yeah, just basic things like, in the first volume, it's like, yeah, we've gathered a lot of resources since then, and there's lots of little things to nitpick. But in this, he's getting just stupidly simple facts wrong on stuff, and it's embarrassing. I don't know how he's allowed to just keep going with this, and I guess I'm the sucker because I got a physical version of the book, so I'm feeding his bad habits. But remember, this is the ultimate history of video games, Volume 2.
Indeed.
Man, the energy in this room is exactly the energy at which Kent writes his books.
I was called away for just a brief second there. That's why I wasn't. I wish he had a resource that was easy to validate dates. I just wish there was.
Yeah. I wish such a place existed.
Were those Sega cards for Wow.
Yeah, it's he mentioned this in the book, but it's this is just an E3 promo thing where they were trying to hype up all their designers and stuff.
I swear to God, that's the only picture of Yu Suzuki that exists.
Yeah, I remember when I first started looking for stuff, and that one with him in the yellow coat.
I think I have one or two of him somewhere, but I do not remember where.
Well, there's another one. There you go.
Yeah, looking scared.
just giant Toon Link, here to steal your soul. Oh, and
there's Mario.
Well, to be
here
fair,
to steal
we
your
don't
money.
know who is in. We don't know who is in that one rather charmingly broken Sonic the Hedgehog costume that shows up in festivals.
Here's something fun. When you take pictures and throw them to black and white, you have to adjust the colors because otherwise it looks weird. And these black and white pictures all look weird. They look like color pictures that have been brought to black and white.
I'm perfectly aware of that, but when I put a scan up a couple hours ago, people were like, "Oh, those images are too blue." So I just spent 5 hours doing a black and white conversion and trying not to lose detail. So yes, I'm aware. Those look like a grayscale conversion, though, not specifically a black and white. That looks more like a Photoshop filter where they went to the effects tab and they they went to a grayscale filter specifically.
I mean,
Okay,
this
that's
would have been
based-
something that the publisher did, so it's
It's
their
not
fault.
again. Yeah, 100%. That's not on the author.
And there. Wait, hold on. Courtesy of the Vanamo Online Game Museum, these are Evan Amos pictures. What? No, it should be credited to Evan Amos. Rip Itagaki.
The Daiki Makura picture.
And we're just gonna skip past it, like it never showed up.
Well, at the end of the book, we'll go through all these, but just to stimulate some. Yes,
good old
Trip,
Trip.
who barely features in this fucking book.
Yeah.
Bobby.
Bobby Kotick. Bobby Kotick apparently a coach from somebody losing a sports game in that picture.
Yeah, they got Paul and Ringo at least.
Bless you.
Bless you.
You know, it was weird to see Paul and Ringo selling Sonic 2006,
Uwe
but
Boll?
you gotta give it to
I
them.
love that
Courtesy
he
of Dr.
provided
Uwe Boll.
his fucking photo for this.
Movie
Dr.
director,
Well, now we
restaurant.
know why
No,
his
go
sources are
back.
so strange.
Movie
It was
director.
just his sleep paralysis demon was Uwe Boll, and he whispered to him sales figures about consoles.
Movie director, restaurateur, and supreme entrepreneur Dr. Uwe Boll wrote, produced, and directed several movies based on video games. That is the strangest descriptor of that man I've ever seen. Restaurateur?
Yeah, he has a restaurant. I've never. Let's see, what was his restaurant? I think it was not in America. It was in Vancouver. Bauhaus in Gastown in Vancouver. No longer existed. It was permanently closed due to the COVID pandemic and the dispute with the building's landlord.
Wikipedia says after retiring in 2016 to become a restaurateur, he returned to filmmaking in 2020. So, saying how
He's got
long
some
that
current
lasted.
controversies because of a movie that he did that apparently
Uwe
totally
Boll
comes out.
controversies? No way. All right, I'm just gonna. I just saw this Ed note, and
And
I'll
the
just
actors are
read
kind
it.
of saying, like, we didn't know what we were making, which I know that happened with Caligula, but, like, that always sounds weird to me when an actor's like, we didn't know we were making this film, so, like, what? Like,
The director was being coy.
Wait, see that restaurant you ran? If you didn't like the food and tried to send it back, did you have to have a boxing match with the chef?
On brand. Arguably, the 50th anniversary, as many people consider William Higginbotham's demonstration of tennis for two at the Brookhaven Laboratories in 1958 open house to be the beginning of video games. Others consider Steve Russell's creation of Space War to be the start. I used to discount Higginbotham's accomplishments as not fitting into the evolutionary chain. That is no longer the case, and now fully embrace Tennis for Two as the first known example of an interactive game. But celebrating the 63rd anniversary of video games sounds nowhere near as momentous as the 50th anniversary, so stick with computer space for now.
Personally,
Okay.
I tend to believe that the beginning of video games started when Shigeru Miyamoto coerced his friend into a cave back when they were about 5 years old, forced him to dress like an orc, and then he put on a green suit and proceeded to beat him to death and leave him in the cave. Then when he left, he wrote all that down on a piece of scrap paper and said, in some years in the future, I will repeat this action with many other children. And then, yeah, that was kind of how it went.
Exactly how it went.
Are those the specs to the video game systems?
Yeah, this was,
Why?
yeah, he did this in the middle of a chapter. He just showed them all off.
Xbox, DVD movie playback, remote control required. GameCube, no! PS2, yes! GameCube, backward compatibility, no, links to GBA. What?
Yeah, I don't know what that has to do with backward compatibility, but... all the way up. Back through it all. All the mistakes, all the regrets that we have here together because we are reading Stephen O. Kent. So what are people working on? Yeah.
Okay, well, I can't say what I'm working on.
Okay.
Jeez.
No
Would
fun
just
for
be able to
Shane.
regularly plug your channels.
After that redo with the scan that was too blue, I will be probably working on the video and trying to get it done by the end of the month, so I can get it out there before Save the Games and deal with that. If I
Yes.
don't continually find other obscure Japanese magazines that interview these clubs that are getting just weirder and weirder the more I dig. Weekly Playboy has a feature where that idol came to visit them and hung out with them for a bit. And there was another culture magazine where they went to Falcom for a minute or two and took a great big picture at Falcom. And I'm still looking for their television appearances for both clubs, which apparently are fairly numerous. So hopefully one of those will pop up. And those should be coming into it. Then I have to look at the video would be about an hour long, I believe. So it vastly expanded from the original bad one that was 8 minutes long. But now I get to, fix all the citations and then talk about why the person that was bugging me about the citations was completely wrong about all the things that he was talking about that he was mad at, because Onitama did the same thing and he has much better citations and they reveal contradictory information.
Yes, this is one of our favorite people around here. One Mr. John S.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
But no, hey, I complied. He was right about the sites though. The ones on the websites were it was weird because they were way backed, and I think I just happened to link in the description one where his name was not on it, and I hadn't read the book yet because it was my first video. And the other one was a thing that he did. He was translating someone else. He was reposting someone else's translated work. So that was that, and the scan one was, you didn't scan it yourself, so why are you using this? Because it was that photo was in the article that was cited in the description, and he's like, well, scan it yourself. So I got it, and I have it, and it's there, and it's scanned, so it's there, it's done. And it's all public now. It just came up again. We had to redo the URL because the pictures weren't coming out color. I have color blindness, but they're up now. So anybody who needs those pictures can look at the website there. Some very cool things that were not involved with anything with ASCII. There's an interview with Koichi Nakamura in which he shows off the motorcycle he bought with his door money, and an interview back behind the scenes of a TV interview. There was also multiple pictures of Hiroyuki Imabayashi of Thinking Rabbit. And a color picture of his wife's record store, which is actually owned by his wife's father, which is new information. And a picture of him holding a cartoon stick of dynamite. And a picture of him with a very expensive car he bought with his Sokoban money, presumably. And there's a couple other folks that didn't quite have as much of a legacy. Although, the one from the programmer of Alphos, whose name escapes me, is also there. There is also one about that, and there are many other articles in the magazine, including a great number of discussing pages, over 30, on the 1980s feelings about piracy. And there is an article in there that is like, will floppy disks destroy the computer industry in Japan? Because of piracy. Because they thought perhaps that floppies would be easier to copy. PSAs from many years later notwithstanding, and caused tremendous trouble.
Yes,
lot of stuff
unlike
in computer
cassettes,
crime.
which are so hard to copy.
Well, it's not written from the perspective of a insider publication. It's Weekly Asahi, which is a general interest magazine. There are some humor pieces that are written from an insider's perspective. But a lot of it is, social issue stuff. And there's another one which is like, the future of business. Will computers computerize war? That kind of thing. Which I think from that particular writer was just an excuse to do a hell of a lot of exploded diagrams of cool jets. Because that feels like 80% of the article. But there's also like interviews with like contemporary celebrities about how they felt about computers. So you have like Leiji Matsumoto of Galaxy Express 3.9, many other classics, saying, you know, I hate modern anime and I hate computers and I hate you. Get out of my house, basically. And some other famous musicians and authors also having some concerns and frustrations and being rather grumpy. They all the celebrity interviews sound like they don't want to cooperate. They don't want to talk to the reporter. And also about a new future thing about office phones, and of course the competitions that were had, like when office ladies do the typing competitions. And a big look at a whole bunch of affordable MSX computers, because the MSX was being hyped very heavily around that time. And some the Tsukaba Expo that would be going in 1985, which hadn't yet been a thing, I believe, until later. But it does show like the planetarium being built and stuff like that. So that's up now, and there's a whole bunch of cool stuff. There's it's not suitable for work because it's Weekly Asahi. It's just drawings, but still be aware. It's worth looking at. There's also the book, that one of the clubs made, which is called So Now Microcomputer, which talks about the two clubs that were at the same school, not different schools. At the University of Tokyo, where one track is essentially, Manbiki Shonen and all that stuff that was in Untold History, and I will cite that properly, but also covered by Onitama and many other people, going back as far as 2010, with like a Dojin magazine celebrating Micom Basic, and the Olion Soft Ultimania, which was a website by a friend of one of the developers. And the other big one being TSG, who were the group that made Heiankyo Alien, which has a whole other slew of popularities and mysteries. One of the things that was never seemed to have been discussed before was that these companies were rivals. These clubs, rather, were rivals, and whenever there is a publication where one club is asked about the other one, they will not be shy about insulting the other club. So that should be fun. There's a bit of trash talking there. What else are other folks working on? Alex, what's the next podcast about? Oh, by the way, thank you, Alex, for the Japanese PC one. That was a good. That I also used that as well. The one from about 8 years ago.
Yeah, no worry. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so the next one that'll air is on the Vectrex. It has some information that doesn't appear anywhere else because I've interviewed the head of Ed Krakauer, who was the head of General Consumer Electronics. So there's some inside baseball on the formation and funding and ways of working of that company that have literally not appeared anywhere else. And other than that, always pulling together lots of information from lots of different sources out there in the world,
including my interview with Jay Smith.
Indeed. And then after that, I will be doing a career retrospective of Howell Ivey, who just passed away not that long ago, and whom I interviewed on a couple of different occasions.
Yes, he was. His games aren't as well known anymore. Aside from the Death Race thing, but people don't remember that for the game. They just remember it for all the things outside the game. But he was, an incredibly nice guy. Very nice to talk to. Got lots of little details from him when we talked, and I was like, oh, I should go back and talk to him again. And yeah, these are the things you deal with when you're staring down the barrel of 50 plus years since these people were in the industry. What Alyssa was doing with Ron Halliburton is cool.
Yeah, for sure.
These are things that are needed. We need to find these people and chat with them, and we do that where we can, Kevin talked to the potshot guy. I know that's a terrible summation of his career, but that's he did a game in the 60s. And
And
Yeah.
I talked to Al Rimmers about a year before he died to get the full scoop on California Pacific and get the real dope on cocaine.
Dope and cocaine are two different things, Alex.
Yeah, no, it's always good when we can catch some of those people that haven't been interviewed. I always am annoyed at myself at the ones we don't get, but I have to remind myself we've gotten a lot that no one else would have gotten if we hadn't done it. We, not just the people here, but in the larger We Gaming Alexandria and other friends like Keith Smith and whatnot.
Yeah.
There's one that I actually showed Alex recently that I really should get on. It's that guy who was there extremely early in Atari and may have a bit of a checkered history, but he is still alive, so I need to hit him up.
Are you talking about C. Fred Marinchik himself?
Yes, that man.
That'd be interesting, yeah.
I found it, like, basically I was just searching around, and sometimes I searched names that I remember on newspapers.com, and I remember, like, so there's a famous photo of the people around the Pong unit. There's Nolan Bushnell, Al Alcorn, Ted Damney's in the corner, and then there's a fourth guy.
Yeah,
and
only sometimes Al Alcorn, because sometimes that picture gets cut and poor Al Alcorn is left off the side of it.
Yeah. The framing isn't cinematic enough, but yeah, the full photo, there's the fourth guy, and sometimes he gets misidentified and people don't even know who he is, but we know who he is because we know where the photo comes from. And so he was the financial officer at Atari for probably only a couple months in 1973, but he was there for that famous photo. And when I looked his name up in the newspapers, I found that in 2010, he had given several interviews about the fact that he was there at Pearl Harbor. And he was recounting his story when he was like 3 years old of what it was like being when the Pearl Harbor attack happened. So it's just like, this very strange link may allow me to find someone like this, but you know, that's one of these things where you have to make doubly sure that you're getting the right person, and then this was like very obvious because this guy looked exactly like you would think that the guy on the old photo did.
Yeah, and yeah, Al Alcorn claims that he was doing some funny stuff with the books, but he never goes into detail, and that's all we know on that. So, you know, who knows?
There were certainly a lot of people that, you know, went through that world, didn't leave a great impression, disappeared. And we only have the perspectives of, you know, a very scant number of people. So everybody deserves to have a voice, you know, even you track down the Hewlett-Packard guy. Or, you know, that
yes,
manager.
I did. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Richard Mobilio, one of the people that came in, and he agreed. Like, I didn't even ask him about it. He was like, and we totally shouldn't have been management at that company. Like, he agreed with that. Yeah, no, I found him because he had a personal blog website because he organized safari tours or something crazy like that, just in retirement. And so he had a personal website related to that. And so I found him, Richard Mobilio, one of the HP people at Atari in 74, 73, 74.
I will say that, like, my, you know, the next book that I need to work on, terrible time to try and contact some of these people because the company that Paul Neurath has had to lay people off, and then you know, the Arcane people, you know, are in a bit of a tussle at the moment.
This is the best time to do it. They all have free time.
This is the Looking Glass book, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I may have some more stuff for you about foreign coverage of Looking Glass when I'm done with Radio Scans.
Yeah, Ethan is probably at this point, like, there's some interviews with certain people that have gone more in depth probably, but like in total number of people, Ethan has probably talked to more people than anyone at this point. Yeah. But you still 100%. Need to do Wolasinko.
Yeah.
Before he's old, and Carl can hook you up any week, anytime you want. Carl can hook you up.
Yeah, just things going on.
I know, I'm the same way. I don't interview as often as I should, but this one, Carl can hook you up anytime. They are best buds.
But yeah, so we'll get on it. There's
I know.
endless complications with it. And, I'm still trying to finish up the final stages of this book. Probably this next week, I'm gonna just be sitting down and just doing my final pass on the Gremlin book. So.
You may think you know the story of Dragon's Lair. You do not.
That's gonna be my most saleable story, but
yeah, no, I find the Gremlin stuff, because I haven't read it since you cut it down, but I read a way advanced copy. I mean, the Cinematronic stuff is fine, but the Gremlin stuff is the more complete story because you were able to talk to so many more people there. The Gremlin story in there is fantastic, and obviously it's a niche company, so it's not sexy like talking about Nintendo, but it's really great what you've done in gathering that like cohesive story of that company. So.
There's a lot of stuff in there that's probably incredibly relevant to a lot of our research, no joke, because of the the late '70s stuff. Like, sorry,
I've been waiting to do a Gremlin episode forever, but I don't. But I don't want to steal Ethan's thunder, because obviously, since I've seen an early copy of it, like I have the info, but that would be terrible. I want his book to come out, and then I can do a Gremlin episode.
Yeah, and one of the things that I feel is good about it is also that we're putting some stuff into paper for the first time, some broader things about the trends of the industry, because, there's some stuff that's obviously in They Create Worlds Volume 1, but, there's a lot of things, like stuff like the arcade crash, how that is distinct from the home crash. It's not published anywhere. I am going to be the first person to actually put it down in writing, basically.
Yeah. One of these days, I'll put it down in writing.
I look forward to your publishing and validating what I say when I talk about it in a week or two.
If you need, if you have a specific question, I can.
No, I'll run stuff past folks. It has to pass the tweak-bod test before the hand.
The tweak-bod test. That's like the Steuben test.
But it's just funny because he's like, well, we'll solve the problem of the one game in that student release that we don't know anything about, and I'm like, Onitama couldn't solve that. There was a bunch of people on Twitter that tried to investigate that, and they couldn't solve it. I will see what I can do, but I have no answer for you on this one specific arcade machine. Trying to remember which one that was. It is not Dancing Queen. It is the one they did between Denki Onkyo's one between Hankyo and Dancing Queen. And it's got some oddities about its construction and. Okay, hold on a minute. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, on the book, it's probably
Neo Poseidon.
Ah, that one. Yeah.
Neo Poseidon, yes, the one that we have maybe two scans of, and they very much look like mock-ups. Where it was it sounds like it plays like that one Macross game for the really early Bandai console, where it's you can go into the ship and there's a little side-scrolling level.
But yeah, on the book, it's probably 3/4 of it is Gremlin and Sega related stuff, and then a quarter Cinematronics, because I just didn't have enough. Yeah. It wasn't they weren't reported on enough, and I reached deep. I found people that have not been talked to, but it's just I could not get a full story because, principally because the guy at the head of the company was dead for a long time before I even got into this. So,
well, you could always go and say I talked to him for 20 minutes and he said that.
Yes, but
instantly dating the stream there.
But he got to talk to just about all of the principals at Gremlin, and the one he didn't really get to talk to, Keith talked to a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
what actually is the number of people you've interviewed at this point, Ethan? Is it?
I have a list.
Yeah. What's the number up to?
It's 170 something. individuals. I can look it up
Yeah,
because
it's a lot.
It's
Yeah.
nothing to scoff at, that's for sure.
scoff. 161.
Okay.
I mean, I've reached out to more people and did like some tepid conversation, but this is like people I've actually gotten something from.
Is there a spreadsheet of tepid conversations?
No, it's like that I don't get nothing. I don't really count
I feel
it.
that's what I feel like when I do an
It's,
interview.
that's kind of like the freelance thing of when you like send out emails and you have the spreadsheet of people you've reached out to versus ones who've replied and then ones who've accepted whatever. But that's for like gigs.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot, maybe half of them I talked to on the phone, and then half are email. And I mean, there's several people that I've talked to many separate times on the phone, and I have that on my interview list. So, I've done a lot. It always feels like you can do more. That's the eternal pressure that is sinking upon us as historians, and I haven't, I talked to Seamus Blackley again recently, but that's been the last thing that I've done in a while, and I really need to step it up.
Same. I mean, I haven't done a lot recently. I did 2 recently, but before that, I'd only done like 1 in the past year, and I was going great guns a few years ago.
Yeah, momentum it's hard to keep at times, so yeah, we need to sit down, Alex, and like get a priority list together. I started those long employee lists of people and stuff, but let's try and determine who we need to get that's old.
Yeah.
We gotta write that Atari book eventually.
And even a few people that are not old, but are just too important that we can't risk them like dying in a car crash at 65 either.
Which ones come to mind for you?
Well, a few. I got so close to Don Madrick. So close. But we just couldn't make the scheduling work. He was actually interested in doing it. Just couldn't make the scheduling work. On his end, obviously. He's much busier than I am. Well, I mean, I'm busy, but I can fudge stuff. Alan Becker is one I really want to interview. Like, he was there from the beginning of Sony Interactive Studios. He was the founder of Sony Santa Monica. He went and later revitalized Sony Japan in the early 2010s. It's just like he is the Sony producer, like on the game development side. He is the guy to talk to. He's on LinkedIn. He's retired now.
Well,
but
you know what to do tomorrow morning.
Yes. But yeah, he'd be a good one to talk to because I keep hitting walls. I'm cursed when I try to get information on early Sony.
Yes, it's holding off the PlayStation episode.
It is. I need more context. I mean, I talked to Steve Race about it. I got a lot from him, and I talked to Bernie Stolar about it. I've talked to Jim Wims, but we only got through the first part of his career. I haven't talked to him about Sony, and I had a great interview with Kelly Flock, and we were going to schedule a second one, and he never got back to me. And then fast forward several years, and he died, so I didn't get Kelly Flock's experiences at Sony. I found Chip Herman, who was the original marketing VP. I found him because he used to volunteer for some classic car show, or helped run, some classic car show in California. So he wasn't with that organization anymore, but I emailed the organization, was like, hey, I'm looking for Chip Herman, who used to do the car show. And they put me in touch with him, and I was like, hey, and he was like, okay. And I was like, phone, or can we do phone? And he's like, I prefer email. And then I sent him some questions and nothing. And he's never been interviewed, and he's the guy that was he wasn't at SCEA long, but he was the guy in charge of marketing when they launched the PlayStation. So He came from Whammo, makers of the Frisbee.
Ah, yes.
So I feel like I'm cursed on Sony because I've gotten so close to talking to people, or I've gotten to talk to people about other aspects of their career. Jack Tretton's another one. I thought I had him cornered. We even talked briefly on the phone, and then
you started doing this accent for him, so you know.
Right, and totally turned him. No, but like it feels like I've gotten so close to so many Sony people, and just haven't been able to close it out on the PlayStation specifically. So, and yes, that's why if you look at They Create Worlds, like there is almost no Sony PlayStation content. Like there's some content about games on the PlayStation, but about the PlayStation itself, there's almost nothing, and that's because I need more.
He needs more.
I need unlimited interviews.
Recently, Rage did point out that there is a Amazon Sony documentary that's apparently very bad, but it might have something. So we may need to watch it.
Oh no, the story of the PlayStation.
Yes,
I watched that on Prime Video and I wanted to throw my shoe at the screen.
I just discovered that one of the guys in Japan wrote a memoir that's been translated into English.
Ah.
I need to buy that.
We love our memoirs around here. I got I copied directly from a memoir for the Gremlin book when Gulf and Western bought Sega. There's a whole story from the guy who was the president of Gulf and Western in his memoir, which you cannot get anymore. I got one of the last copies, so I will be scanning it at some point.
It
Nice.
came out a couple of years ago and was independently published. It's available on Kindle, but it's behind the scenes at PlayStation. Former CTO talks about 16 years of creation. It's a pretty short book, so I don't know
worst is
how
when it's
insightful
like
it would be, but
an ex-employee that just happens to do Dojin memoirs, and they're at one Comic-Cat of one season, or maybe one Postle-Cat spin-off that's not even the main campus. There's a lot of stuff like that. Those are hard to pinpoint.
But yeah, he was there. But yeah, he was there from the launch of the PlayStation all the way to the beginning. I'm not sure if the PlayStation 4 had come out, but at least while they were conceptualizing the PS4. So that could be interesting.
All right, Alex, July is the month of PlayStation. Get moving.
Yes.
Anybody else working on anything in particular want to talk about? Or should we wrap up this stream? Or we have continued on well past the time that anybody has attention anymore.
Wait,
No,
people are
it's-
paying attention to this?
Come on.
I'm listening.
Ah!
Someone's listening out there. But we'll stop the stream here. Thanks for coming along. We'll see you next time for Chapter 11 of The Ultimate History of Video Games Volume 2. See you then.